Give me big old buckets of butterbeer. Give me big old barrels of butterbeer. Give me the drink I love so dear. And another round for my friend right here of the sweet old butter beer.
Welcome to the Three Broomsticks. We invite you to pull up a chair, grab a butterbeer, and settle in for a hearty discussion about Harry Potter. I'm Irvin Cateman.
I'm Karoline Oberländer.
And I'm Sophia Jenkins. And today at the pub, we are very excited to welcome Lizzie Ruffing. Lizzie, how about you tell us about your Hogwarts house, favorite book, favorite character, journey to Potter? Let's get to know you.
Hi, thanks for having me. This is my first podcast ever, so I'm super excited to be here.
Very exciting.
Yay!
Yay!
Yeah, for my Hogwarts house, I think that I've been all over the spectrum. As a kid, I was a full Gryffindor. I acted first and asked questions later and very much was following my emotions with everything. My adult friend group now, we went through an exercise of sorting everyone into Hogwarts houses, and they put me in Slytherin. I have come to accept that as my house because I do think that I have quite a few of the Slytherin characteristics, most notably like their adaptability and how they're able to just kind of make situations go in their favor if they need them to. So I've come to accept that I am a Slytherin with a Gryffindor moral compass. Let's put it that way.
Huh.
I honestly have always thought Gryffindors and Slytherins are like kind of two sides of the same coin. Like, I think they have a lot of similarities.
They do.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think a Slytherin with a Gryffindor moral compass, I think that's just a Gryffindor.
I disagree. I actually disagree, but we won't get into that a different time.
Yeah, and I will say that I asked ChatGPT to sort me, and it sorted me in Ravenclaw, and they said that I had Slytherin secondary characteristics. So I guess the Slytherin is sticking in some way or another. Yes, and favorite book. My favorite book, hands down, is Half-Blood Prince. I think that
Correct.
is just the most fantastic of all the books, and I couldn't even pick one singular thing that I love the most about it, so that is what it is.
Yes.
And then for my favorite character, when the books were first coming out, I read along with them when I was a kid, and I'll get into that a little bit later, but Hermione Granger was my favorite character for the first 4 books. She was just... I idolized her. I wanted to be very much like her. I was always the person who wanted to be the first one to answer the questions in class. But I have to pick Ginny Weasley as my favorite character of all time. I really started to like her in book 5 when her personality was starting to develop a little bit more through the writing. But really what sold me is just like her kind of like prankster type nature, and she doesn't take any crap from anyone. And there was this one scene where she was, I can't remember who she was interacting with, but it was when she was prancing around, acting like a ballerina when she was mocking Fleur at some point during the series. And I just could see that in my head.
Prince.
That's
That's
Half-Blood Prince. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's just a great character. I wish that there was a little bit more to her, in the movies and things like that.
Yeah, great.
I mean, God willing, in the TV show.
True.
Yeah, seriously.
Very true. Yeah, and I think that my journey to Potter is very similar to how a lot of people have come into the series. I grew up with the books when I was a child, and even the movies. I remember when they first came out, and I started out listening to Sorcerer's Stone on audio tape. And for people who are younger, yes, that is a thing. Audio tape. Or tape tracks that you have to rewind manually. And then I started reading the books, starting with Chamber of Secrets. And my absolute favorite memory of the early days is going to, I think it was the Prisoner of Azkaban book release at our local bookstore. And I was just so excited to stay up late because I was a little kid and everything.
Whoa, Prisoner of Azkaban, you're like OG.
Yeah. I think I remember
Wow.
like my older sister and I begging my parents to let us go to this release. And it was a lot of fun. And we went to all of the releases after that one. But it took a little bit of convincing, I think, to allow them to go.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah. And anyway, so I've read the books like from the beginning. I was a pretty advanced reader for my age, to be honest with you, but I would always have to wait for my older sister to finish reading the books first.
Yes,
until
same.
she would let me read them. Yes, you get it, Sophia.
I do. So annoying.
Yeah. But then eventually she got a little bored with it. So then I was able to start reading the books first, which I was very smug about. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember like for Half-Blood Prince, like my sister was reading it so slowly, and so I would just like steal it when she wasn't looking and just like start speed reading, and then she'd find out and she'd get really mad. So yeah, for the 7th book we both bought our own, like our parents bought us our own copies. They're like, we don't want to deal with this drama.
Oh yeah. Yeah, fortunately my sister, she I think she continued listening to the audio tapes for a while, and then I was able to just kind of, you know, we would always have to share the books, and I was able to like start reading them first. But yeah, moving on to like later in life, after the series ended, I did kind of like dabble in fan fiction just a tiny little bit, but I got a little bit bored with that, and I would only occasionally reread the series. But then like 10 years after the series finished, my new friend group that I had met in adulthood, I was invited by one of them to a Harry Potter themed trip to London, England. And I thought that just sounded like a lot of fun.
Nice.
So I agreed to join. And that was where I met Irvin.
Oh, fun.
And
Yep.
yeah.
That's cool.
Yes. And it was just such a fun time. It was so great meeting a bunch of other people who were like interested in Harry Potter, and it just rekindled my love for the series in general. So the rest is history. At this point now, I'm like, I want to try a podcast and see, you know, how that goes, and just share my love, you know, kind of out there for the world to hear.
Fun.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. I don't think I've ever heard of someone who kind of came back to the books. That is really cool.
Yeah.
And after 10 years, wow.
Yeah, I didn't realize that, like, you know, we were bringing you back to the fandom, because on that London trip, like, you were so into it. I remember, you know, us going out for afternoon tea and talking, like, Harry Potter theories for hours on end. So yeah, you dove right back in, like you never left.
Yeah, it was so fun to reconnect, because, you know, life got busy and you know, the world changed, but I was like, I got sucked right back in. I was like, how did I forget how wonderful this is, you know? So I'm happy to be back.
Yeah. For context, I organized a giant group of people to go to London for the epilogue. So we were there on September 1st, 2017.
Oh, fun.
Cool.
We went to King's Cross. We went to platform 9 3/4. We were there for the celebration. And then we took a train to a castle.
Yes.
We went to Lincoln Castle, because just it seemed like the thing to do on September 1st.
Yeah.
You take a train from King's Cross to a castle, and we explored Lincoln, and it was just the best day. Like,
Yeah.
and yeah, Lizzie and I have been friends ever since.
That is such a great idea. I love it.
Yeah, and then we dressed up too. So we had wands and robes, and you just had to
Of
have
course.
all that. Like, it's
With Irvin, that's a given. You know, he doesn't
Yeah,
even need
Lizzie,
to
that
say
went
it.
without saying.
well, for me it was a totally new thing, but I had a lot of fun doing it.
Well, we're so glad to have you with us for your very first podcast. I think it's going to be a really good one.
Yes, I agree. And today for episode number 86, we've gathered to discuss the 91st chapter of our Harry Potter series, Veritaserum, Goblet of Fire, chapter 35, so right at the end. We encourage you to read the chapter before listening, as always, and we have a lot of recommended reading. I will go through the list. Thank you, Irvin, for all of that, because most of it is by Irvin. So the
That's
first...
not true. It's
let me count.
half of it.
Half of it.
Only
okay.
half. Only half.
Okay, let's start with you. So, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Sevens by Irvin, The Fallen Fathers of Goblet of Fire by Irvin, The schemes behind the spite, why Voldemort really jinxed the DADA job by Sophia. The role of books in the Hogwarts. Didn't you know?
It's funny, I didn't put that in there, so I was like, oh, it's me.
Yeah, it's you.
Yeah, Karolina, you're the only host here who hasn't written essays about this chapter.
Sorry. Okay, I'll get into that. No, you know what? I'll talk about that later, but I have written something. I just need to find it. But later on that, yes.
Share it.
I'll share it later. There's a point where I thought, I have to tell you about that. So keep listening. I'll come back to that. So the next one is the role of books in the Hogwarts saga by David Martin, and A Very Bad Year for Albus Dumbledore, and It's All Snape's Fault by Josie Kearns. And then last but not least, the Dumbledore book by Irvin, Dumbledore, The Life and Lies. The whole book, Irvin, I guess.
I mean, specifically chapter 4, but,
okay.
While you're reading chapter 4, maybe read all the others too.
Yeah, read them. I read your book, obviously, Irvin. I was at your book tour, and it's a really good book. Read it.
Agreed.
I mean, this chapter just has so much going on, and, it's such fertile ground for analysis of Dumbledore and Crouch and defense professors and, once I started working at this, I was like, oh, and that essay, oh, and this essay, oh, and the other one. So, yeah, it's a lot of homework, but I think it's worth it. But while you're off doing homework, we want to give a huge thanks to Luke Smitherman over on our Patreon who bought us this round of drinks at the pub. So whoop whoop!
Yay!
Thank you so much, Luke. Listeners, if you want to buy us a round at the pub, please head on over to patreon.com/3broomsticks with the numeral 3 to sign up. We have so much fun bonus content over there. I know Karolina's been diving deep into the realm of fanfiction, which is a lot of fun for all of us. And in the meantime, I think our Patreon is going to be where we have a lot of the responses to the HBO show coming out. Mm-hmm. I know that we did 2 separate trailer reactions when the first trailer for the TV series dropped. I think Ev and I want to say Tavi did one. And then I did one with our guest from a couple episodes ago live where I watched the trailer for the first time and reacted. So yeah, I think up until the TV series comes out, we're not gonna devote actual episodes to it, but we're definitely gonna be, talking about it, interacting over on Patreon. So please head on over there, and join in the fun. And, we'd really appreciate your help in keeping the lights on at the 3 Broomsticks so we can keep talking about Harry Potter for a long time to come.
And now let us offer a toast to the comments on episode 83. The episode was Polyjuice Potion, so another potion. And we raise our glass to commenter Louis Freeman Davies, and then later also to Books and Magic, because I couldn't really decide, because both of them kind of put together, interlink really, really nicely. So Louis said, putting on my science professor hat for a second, for your hypothetical lesbian witch couples who are trying to have a biological child by polyjuicing one of them into a man, you should remind them that conception can take place anywhere from 5 minutes to 5 days after intercourse. It is essential that the father witch take the potion hourly until conception happens. Otherwise, I think the second the potion wears off, the sperm are going to revert to eggs, rendering conception impossible. Also recall that the witch would carry 2 X chromosomes. Presumably, this means that all sperm produced by the polyjuiced father witch would also carry an X.
Oh my God.
Since the mother witch's ova also carry X chromosomes, all babies conceived should be XX. Therefore, this method would allow the couple to have daughters but not sons, which I think is amazing. And I'm also thinking, does the sperm need to take the Polyjuice Potion because it's technically not anymore part of the body, or does that still count if the father witch takes it? And then Books and Magic, in a different comment, said, I wonder how your thoughts regarding polyjuice and pregnancy would change given the fact that there is cellular transfer between mothers and fetuses, which leads to them hosting each other's DNA for life. So for me, that kind of implicates that either you take Polyjuice Potion and up until that point, it's still kind of the father witch and not the witch, but still within only with daughters. And then as soon as you kind of don't take the Polyjuice Potion anymore, but conception has already happened, the child is truly the child from the two witches. But the implication of the second commenter is that it would be the child of the one that you took the Polyjuice Potion from and the other witch, which then would mean that the not only was the child not really the child of the two witches, but also the mother witch would carry the DNA of the polyjuiced person for life. Very complicated, but I loved it. I loved reading through all the comments there. And I really love when magic that already is abstruse mixed with abstruse science and just becomes impossible. So thank you very much. It was very entertaining to read that.
This was so fantastic because, like, we talked about the Polyjuice. We were on the Polyjuice episode. None of us are, like, experts on biology or anything. Like, I was god-awful at biology in school. So, like, once we got into, like, the chromosomes of it all and cellular transfer, I was like, I am learning so much here. It was fantastic. I adore our comment section. And thank you so much to everyone who chimed in.
It's so funny. Like, I'm halfway through listening to the Polyjuice episode, so I haven't even, like, got into this part yet where you talk about pregnancy. So I'm just like, oh my God, like, so many things I've never considered before. I personally, and I haven't listened to the episode yet, so I'll have to listen and then I'll have to think about it and make sure. But, like, I personally do not think that you can create sperm as polyjuiced into a man. I think the potion is more superficial than that. I don't think it is changing your ability to do that on the more biological level. But I'm gonna have to see if my opinion changes after listening.
Yeah, because we did discuss that a lot, and I think we came down on the side of, you know, it does change you, like, on a biological level, not just a cosmetic one.
Okay.
So
it's complicated. I have confused feelings about it.
We will look for you in the comment section as well.
Give me a little time and I'll make my way there.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, we're going to keep harping on about Polyjuice because later on in the doc, Lizzie has fantastic points about how Polyjuice works that, you know, we didn't get to on the episode. So, really, Polyjuice is just the gift that keeps on giving.
Oh my God.
Points or plot holes, you can decide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, fantastic stuff. And now it's time for our chapter summary, which was written, as always, by Sam Williams. And I suppose I will have to read this. So I haven't actually read this yet, so we'll see what absolute nonsense we're in store for. So, the chapter summary. First of all, Sam says that we must sing the music playing in Goblet of Fire when Harry returns, and they're all happy not knowing Cedric is dead. I can't believe y'all humor Sam's nonsense.
That's my son!
Upon the band's joyful tune of triumph, Dumbledore knows something is wrong. Other than the tuba being out of key, it's the subtlest signs, unmoving, unbreathing aliveness that makes Dumbledore realize Cedric Diggory is dead. Bring out your dead, Amos! Harry has had the last laugh in your made-up rivalry. Also, Harry shouts off about Voldemort being back, which, one supposes, is important information. But while everyone on the bleachers is starting to figure out that the transformation into a sparkly vampire is taking place, Dumbledore is trying to calm the school, manage fudge, and keep Harry safe. Who comes along but Mr. Tongue Flick himself? It's Doctor Who, everyone! Mad-Eye Moody, a.k.a. Barty Crouch! Junior! Whisked away to Moody's office, Harry begins to realize that Moody is not who he says he is, or that he's turned super evil. He's also been the mastermind of helping Harry win. That's right. Voldemort's most loyal Death Eater has been grading 1,000 papers a week just to ensure Harry wins 1,000 galleons and then dies. In comes the, what do you call the trio of Severus, Minerva, and Dumbledore? The pensioners? Anyway, they appear, stun Mad Barty Crouch Eyes, and force him to drink. Sorry. Oh, I'm stuck on Mad Barty Crouch Eyes. And force him to drink Veritaserum, where he reveals all. The imprisonment, the switch, the deaths, the memory charms, the enchantments, all leading to this fabulous ending of this book.
All right.
Perfect summary.
It's good. It's good that Sam is still here in spirit.
Yes.
Yes, that is a really good summary. And I like that he starts with the chaos after Harry comes back, because for me that's such an important part of the chapter. Because so many crazy things are happening. And maybe with the Dumbledore expert here.
Yes.
A couple of questions I had. So, like, Dumbledore, do you think he already suspected something strange was happening right before Harry came back? Why do you think so? Or when do you think was the point where he's like, okay, something strange is happening? And if he thought something strange was happening, do you think he already like sprung into action and did something? Or was he just waiting to see if Harry might come back alive?
So I think that he must have known when Voldemort touches his dark mark and Snape feels the dark mark burn. I assume Snape immediately went to find Dumbledore and tell him that. Mm-hmm. So Dumbledore must have known or he must have suspected that Voldemort was back, or known that something big happened there. Like, I don't know exactly, like, but he probably suspected Voldemort was back. And my guess is that then he went to Mad-Eye Moody and was like, can you check on Harry magically with your eye in the maze, make sure he's still safe? And Mad-Eye Moody is like, yep, he is totally fine. Everyone's fine. We're all good. And so he's sitting there like watching this going on, being like, okay, you know, we don't have very much information now. Like, we're going to wait and see what happens next. And then Harry suddenly shows up with a dead body, and he's starting to be like, wait a second. Mad-Eye Moody said everything is fine, and now suddenly Cedric is showing up dead, and like Harry is saying Voldemort's back, and now I'm like suspicious.
Wouldn't he have like taken Harry out of the maze as soon as he had suspected Voldemort was back? Or do you think he had like the plan of, oh, they need to meet, they need to have a show off, and he can't die anyways?
Oh no.
No.
I just assumed that he was like, okay, Voldemort's back, but like Mad-Eye Moody has his eye on Harry, and we have no like evidence that Voldemort is anywhere near here. Like, Voldemort is back, probably way off somewhere else. So like Harry is like at least, I guess, safe in the maze, and then like at least Mad-Eye Moody has his eye on him. Like, I think he was like, the situation for this moment is like not at the place of being like dangerous for Harry.
Yeah.
In that way. So I think that is why he didn't do anything to stop the situation.
And Dumbledore's also a judge, so he can't really be checking in all the time to know like what's the status of all of the contestants. All he knows is that there's been a couple of people who might have been removed from the maze, and then there's still people who are not accounted for because they might still be going through the motions of getting to the center. I don't know if it was ever clear if they know immediately when someone touches the cup.
Well, I think the cup is supposed to be a port key that brings you right. Yeah, I think there's no way for them to know someone touched the cup except that the cup is supposed to bring you back to the beginning of the maze as a port key. So they're like, well, clearly no one touched the cup, because if they did, they'd be here.
I mean, so basically, Voldemort doesn't press his dark mark until Harry is removed from the maze. Yeah, so I think once once Harry is in the graveyard, I think Dumbledore knows something's going on, and I think he knows that it's probably not great, but there's really nothing he can do at that point.
But you don't, do you think, Irvin, that he knows that, like, he doesn't think Harry's gone, right? Or you think he knows that Harry is gone? I think
he would have to know, because I have to imagine that he would sort of be doing hominum revelio, or like, you know, basically like he would be invested in knowing whether Harry is in the maze and alive.
Yeah, but like his main tool for that is Mad-Eye Moody. Like hominum revelio, they're in a huge stadium with lots of people. Like I don't think that he could figure it out through that. I think he is trusting Mad-Eye Moody and saying like, you still have eyes on them in the maze, right? And he's like, yeah, they're totally fine. They're just like, you know, going through the maze. And I think that whole time Mad-Eye Moody is like, I got this situation handled. Like, they're fine. And then by the time that he realizes that they're not fine, it's like everything is so chaos. And then like he is focused on telling Amos Diggory that Cedric has died. And then like then the other, like, small part of his brain is like, wait a second, like, Mad-Eye Moody said they were fine, and then he looks around and there's no Harry, and someone says that Mad-Eye took him away, and he's like, oh, like...
So that's a plausible reading. Like, I don't have anything to say that it's wrong, but equally plausible is, like, Dumbledore knows when they disappear from the maze, and, like, what can he do about it? Like, I think we can't really know one way or the other because, you know, in the alternate scenario, like, Dumbledore is, you know, like, at least aware of, like, who is in the maze. Like, I think you can target hominum revelio, like, to the maze to see, like, there are still 4 people in it or 2 people in it or whatever. And then at one point, Harry and Cedric disappear and Dumbledore's like, oh, they've disappeared. This isn't good, but literally can't do anything about it. And I think you could really read it either way.
Okay, but in that situation, wouldn't he send Snape to Voldemort? Like, in that situation, don't you say, yeah, okay, he touched the dark mark. You need to go now and see what you can do. Like, you know, like, that's his only way to get there. Because he knows, like, with Snape, like, Snape just apparates in, like, whatever the magic is of the dark mark. He just knows where Voldemort is, and then he shows up there. So, like, he has someone who knows exactly, like, he could even bring Dumbledore with him. He could apparate with Dumbledore. Like, you know, like, if he knew that Harry was gone, like, he does have something he could do.
I
think that would expose Snape.
Good point.
And
yeah, but who cares? Like, Harry is more important. Like, Harry is more important. Like, he doesn't care about Snape.
That's kind of why I'm asking, because either Dumbledore thinks Harry is so important, he needs to get there, and then I also think if he knew, he would try to get there and rescue Harry, because then that's the point. But he also isn't surprised about, and we'll talk about it later a little bit, about the whole process of how Voldemort came back, that Voldemort took Harry's blood. So I assume that Dumbledore might have thought, like, he knows, or maybe he suspects at that point that there are Horcruxes, or at least 1 or 2. Mm-hmm. And he would have probably gone through the way of, like, how do you resurrect someone with a Horcrux? And so I think he knows, obviously, at that point, you can't defeat someone who doesn't have a body. So he needs Voldemort to come back in order to defeat him. So I'm asking, is he letting that happen on purpose if he's aware?
No.
Okay. Because isn't it much easier to, like, hunt down all the Horcruxes and kill them when you don't also have, like, a physical Voldemort body? So
it's also much easier to deal with Voldemort's body when Harry is, like, a battle-hardened Auror in his 30s as opposed to 14.
Yeah, right.
So,
and, like, not having any support.
We can definitively say that, Dumbledore doesn't want this to happen. No. Goblet of Fire is really the only book in the series where Dumbledore was outplayed by Voldemort.
Yeah.
Like, full stop, like, this round goes to the Dark Lord.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
Sophia, you make a very, very good point about Dumbledore and Snape. I didn't think of that. And yeah, I think you're right. I think Dumbledore has to not know what's going on in order for this to make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think of any other explanation. And yeah, I guess in keeping with the theme of Dumbledore is just 2 steps behind in Goblet of Fire, I think he's 2 steps behind in this moment as well.
And I mean, there is not so much time has passed between him pressing the dark mark and Harry coming back, I think. And maybe that is the time that took for Snape, who maybe wasn't standing next to Dumbledore, to go to him, tell him what's happening without anyone listening. Then him going to Moody and asking him if he was safe or doing whatever he thought was best. And then maybe by that point, Harry already appeared.
Timing-wise, I think from the dark mark to Harry's return, I imagine is less than an hour. I mean,
absolutely, yes.
He monologues a lot, but assuming he talks at a reasonable pace, and then the duel is 2 spells, and then 5 minutes later you're done. So
yeah, I would have thought 20 minutes.
Yeah, I don't think it's because reading it, there's a lot of information, but when people talk, they talk so much faster. So actually, I think after this is done, one of us should take, after we podcast, one of us should, take the time to actually just, time ourselves reading out loud those monologues and see how long it takes. Because I feel like that would give us some interesting information that I didn't think to do before this. But, I don't think it's that much time, but it's, enough time for Snape to find Dumbledore and Dumbledore to find Mad-Eye Moody, but not an excessive amount of time for Dumbledore to start being wow, this is really suspicious that they're still in there and nothing has happened and so I think that would give us some additional information, but to me it really shows that Barty Crouch Jr. did a great job impersonating Mad-Eye Moody because
spectacular.
Dumbledore clearly trusts him to the hilt. He clearly is Mad-Eye is saying they're still in the maze. Cool. That's the only way that this makes sense is that he is trusting Mad-Eye so much. And yeah, I think that probably for Dumbledore, he is aware of this potion and aware that, this might be how Voldemort came back, was planning to come back. But he knows that, even with this potion, he could just pick any random enemy of his. And, he clearly knows there was some sort of plot to try to get something with Harry. He knows there's some plot with the Goblet of Fire, but he could be well, Voldemort might have just given up on Harry. It was just it was too hard. It didn't work out. And yeah, maybe he came back, but he came back with some other random wizard, or he used a different way of coming back or something. So
I'd like to push back on that. I don't think Dumbledore knows about the flesh, blood, and bone potion.
Okay.
The fandom, I think, has a tendency to assume that, the dark magic we see is the sum total of what's out there. So basically, Voldemort says one or more of my experiments had worked. There is such a big, wide world of dark magic out there. Dumbledore doesn't know that there are multiple Horcruxes. He only suspects that at this point. I don't think Dumbledore knows how one comes back from being almost killed when one has Horcruxes. I don't think this is a, well-explored venue of magic. And I think, more to the point, what trips Dumbledore up so very much in Goblet of Fire is that he doesn't understand Voldemort is trying to get to Harry rather than kill him. Because for so many years, the plot was always destroy Harry Potter. And now the evil plan is suddenly, oh no, we have to protect Harry Potter and, yoink him away from Dumbledore. And Dumbledore's just what? This doesn't make sense if Voldemort's trying to kill Harry.
Right.
That's a really good point, Irvin.
Thank you.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I guess we don't have any evidence that Dumbledore actually knows about the potion.
Yeah.
So, and that makes it all make a lot more sense. Yeah, that's a great point.
Mm-hmm. Thank
you. Now we've talked already a lot about the pre-chaos. We haven't even really started with the chaos. But a couple of points on the chaos. So the first thing I wanted to say is I really feel for Harry in that point. What a heavy thing for Harry to deliver to Dumbledore when he says he's back, Voldemort. Because he doesn't know at that point that Dumbledore already knows, obviously. And I think at that point he also feels at least partly responsible for Voldemort's resurrection, because without him that wouldn't have been possible that way. So coming back with your dead friend under the arm and telling your biggest mentor that his enemy number one is back and the person who wants to kill you and kill your parents, how heavy that must have been for him.
I completely agree. I just, as you were talking, had a thought, though, that I'd never considered before, which is that when Harry says to Dumbledore, Voldemort is back, Dumbledore might not actually know at that point that Harry went to Voldemort and then came back. Like, that he might have thought he had a vision of Voldemort coming back, and he's kind of like, yeah, we know. Like,
I love that perspective.
We also, like, I already know this, and he might think that Cedric died in something related to the maze, and that, like, in the chaos of, like, you know, like, whatever was going on, it happened so fast that, like, Mad-Eye Moody wasn't able to come and tell Dumbledore, and then he touched the cup, and he comes back, and, like, yeah, he might not even know that Harry had that experience of, like, actually being there.
I think at an instinctual level, Dumbledore agreed with and believed Harry, because he did say, like, stay close to me. So he was still automatically protective.
Oh, I think he agrees. I think he believes him. But he might think, like, he already kind of knows Voldemort's back because Snape, like, is like, oh, my dark mark just burned. And, like, that's kind of the only reason why it would. But he might think that Harry just had a vision because, you know, he just, like, you know, a week or two ago, he had a vision about Voldemort. So he might think that, yeah, Harry didn't actually experience any of it himself.
That never occurred to me.
I'll also say a lot is made in the next book about how Dumbledore knows Voldemort's back because Harry told him. So I think we have to assume that he didn't know. Dumbledore might have suspected. He definitely knows Voldemort is getting stronger, but I think he has a body, he's walking, talking, like, you know, he has the Death Eaters, this is what's going on. I think Dumbledore wouldn't have known without Harry telling him, and that's sort of, like, the big triumph of Harry in this moment is, like, he foiled Voldemort's plan by letting Dumbledore know all of that.
Mm-hmm. He did that all while he was in shock and traumatized, and he was still able to tell Dumbledore what was going on. I think that's just so brave, and the way that it was described in the text was really, really well done.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, the text here in general is just phenomenal writing. Like, the way that Joe writes how, like, overwhelmed Harry is and all of this chaos around him while he's completely disoriented, like, it's just masterful. Because, like, this is something that would, like, be much easier to do, like, in a different medium. Like, in film, you have, like, you know, blurring and shaky camera work and all of that kind of thing. But to actually, like, convey that in pure text is just so good.
Yeah, she does a really good job with that.
Yeah.
Irvin, to go back to your point, I think it could be more complicated than that, in that what Harry provides is not just, like, I think that Dumbledore would be kind of dumb if he didn't think that there was a strong possibility that Voldemort was back based off of Snape telling him about the dark mark. like, I think he has to, and Karkaroff fleeing, and everyone knows, or like, at least some people, okay, not everyone, but I'm sure Dumbledore knows Karkaroff flees because Moody knows that, and I assume that they are in communication with each other, and that's how they both know, like, how Moody knows this. So I assume that, you know, what Dumbledore is saying to Moody is like, Karkaroff fled, you know, Snape just got the dark mark burn, like, we have some suspicions that, like, we assume that he's either getting a lot stronger or, like, strong enough to be able to call his servants, or he is back in some more real way. So I think that, like, he has to know to some extent. But I think, like, what Voldemort was, like, banking on was that, I think, for one thing, Voldemort might have been banking on Snape just fleeing and not telling Dumbledore anything. But what Voldemort was banking on, I think, was, like, he has no real evidence. Like, if he goes to the Minister of Magic, if he goes to anyone else, tries to get the Order of Phoenix back up on just the evidence of, like, you know, the dark mark burned, you know, it's not going to do anything. Like, he has no real evidence. So I think what Harry brings is more of, like, the evidence. And yeah, even with Harry's, like, eyewitness testimony and evidence, we see, even so, like, a lot of people don't believe him. So, yeah, I don't think it's true that Dumbledore would have no idea that Voldemort was back, but I think he would not have enough evidence to be able to, like, say it in a convincing way, and even for him to fully know himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that also makes me think about the next question I had in this chaos on how and why Dumbledore acts. So we see the scene with Cedric and Cedric's parents, which is one of the things I personally think the movies did very well. I never really cared much for Cedric, while reading it. But now as I'm older, I don't know, I never, like, Cedric's death, like, I was afraid of Voldemort coming back, but Cedric's death didn't really do anything for me there. But now that I'm older, I just cannot imagine the heartbreak of losing your child. So I still don't really care about Cedric if I think about it, but I care more about his parents. But anyway, he is dead. The parents are coming, and Dumbledore makes the decision to leave Harry to talk to Cedric's parents, which I think as headmaster of the school is the right decision. But as the kind of puppet master, Voldemort's enemy number one, might be a mistake. So, like, how did Dumbledore make the decision here to act more as headmaster when often he doesn't really act as a headmaster, but more acts in his kind of puppet master plan concocting role?
Yeah.
Okay, me,
I was thinking the same thing.
Yes,
Irvin.
So I love this question. I was like, you know, let's dive into Dumbledore. So you say that he leaves Harry to deal with the Diggories, and I was like, does he? And I, like, went into the text. I don't think he does leave Harry. Basically, like, he's with Harry, and the Diggories are, like, running at him, distraught about their son. And so basically he, like, turns to talk to them, like, with Harry right by his side, like, next on the to-do list. The fake Mad-Eye Moody is the one that removes Harry from Dumbledore. Very much against Dumbledore's wishes, because Dumbledore even says, the real Moody would not have removed you from my sight after what happened tonight.
Yeah.
The moment he took you, I knew, and I followed.
I think that there has to be an assumption of some amount of physical distance between the two of them, because, like, for it to have taken so long for Dumbledore to follow, like, I just, like, if he was literally, like, right behind him, right next to him, to Harry, like, he would have, like, even while talking to the Diggories, like, sort of looked back to check on Harry and stuff, and would have noticed in 2 seconds. And, like, but it takes a decent amount of time. So I think he must have had to walk over to where the Diggories are to, like, you know, Fudge is like, don't you think you should tell them before they see? So, like, he is trying to head them off and tell them this news before they see their son's body. So I think he physically goes to where they are. He's dealing with these distraught parents. It would be very rude to be like, and now I have to go away. So like after that is when he comes back and he's looking for Harry, and I'm sure there are like people all around, and he's like, where's Harry? He's asking people, and someone is like, oh yeah, Mad-Eye Moody took him. And then he's like, oh, okay. And so Minerva and Snape and him go to the office. So I think they have to be physically separate.
Yeah, there had to be enough time for Moody to give his monologue. Yeah. Because that was a pretty long monologue.
And to get to the office. Like, you know, you'd think they'd go running. And, like, Mad-Eye Moody is, like, dragging Harry. They're not moving fast, you know? Like,
well, basically, yes. I'm not as certain about the logistics as you guys are. I think sort of if Dumbledore is, like, next to Harry, Dumbledore, like, turns to the Diggories, Moody takes Harry away, and Dumbledore, like, you know, looks and like sees Moody walking with Harry, but he's not gonna like extricate himself from like the sobbing, grieving parents like mid-sentence.
Wait, you don't think he would? if he sees like Mad-Eye like dragging Harry away, of course he's gonna do that. Yeah. I'm sorry, he definitely would.
Because that is the thing. That is the point why he suddenly suspects Moody, and if he suddenly suspects Moody after Voldemort just came back and Harry had a dead Cedric in his hand,
he's not going to risk.
He would immediately go there.
He's not going to risk Harry dying because he was being polite, like, or polite is a little, but like because he was, being kind to the Diggories. Like he's not going to risk Harry potentially being killed. So no, I don't think. I think that it makes sense that he wouldn't leave the Diggories like to go check on Harry if he is sort of assuming that, of course, everyone around is going to be making sure that Harry is fine. And like, of course, Mad-Eye and McGonagall and whoever are going to be like, and Fudge are going to be listening to his orders or whatever, you know. So I think that it was, I think that he was just trusting the people around him. And then it's not until like a little later that he's like, oh, shoot, I should not have done that.
Fair. That makes sense. But the other thing I wanted to say is that, like, Dumbledore does have an extraordinary amount of empathy for grieving parents. Yeah. Because I thought this was a callback to Chamber of Secrets. Basically, when Harry's down in the chamber and, says Dumbledore's name, and that's what, alerts Dumbledore to what's going on, and he sends Fawkes down, like, Dumbledore could have come to Harry's aid himself in the chamber, taken the Fawkes Express the way he does in Book 5. But I think at the moment he was dealing with the Weasleys who were grieving the loss of their daughter. So he just sends Fawkes and, the Hat and trusts that it'll work itself out while he tries to deal with the grieving parents. I can't think of another reason why he wouldn't go himself.
I don't think he sent Fawkes. I think Fawkes went on his own.
I think Fawkes is an extension of Dumbledore, so in a way he did send him, even though he's a pet.
I don't think he... Like, when you say extension of him, what do you mean?
I'm subject to the theory that Fawkes is, in a way, a Horcrux of his own for Dumbledore.
I haven't heard this theory before.
I can't really say exactly where I read it, but I know I read it somewhere. And of course it's been debunked, but like I just remember reading that at one point. I'm like, I love this idea. And then it, didn't come to pass.
I think I see it as like Fawkes, there is some like magic that is like that Fawkes could sense that someone was like showing loyalty to Dumbledore and in need of some sort, or like showing loyalty to Dumbledore, and Fawkes is drawn to him. Like, I don't think Fawkes knows what is going on exactly. Fawkes doesn't know it's Harry in the Chamber of Secrets with Tom Riddle. He doesn't like, and I think that it's just like this magic draws him to Harry. And so I don't think it's like Fawkes and Dumbledore are chatting and Dumbledore is like, yeah, you go find Harry and save him while I do this. I think it's like this like magic of the Phoenix that pulls Fawkes to him.
Could it have been the tail feather in Harry's wand? Maybe that's the connection.
Oh, that's cool too. I like that.
That's very true. Yeah. And also, Dumbledore says, I can't quote it, but help will come to those.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And maybe I always thought he left Fawkes at the school in case Harry needed help. And then maybe that was triggered by the wand. I never thought about that, but that was always my assumption.
That makes sense that Fawkes might stay at the school.
I disagree because I have a whole theory about how he's using the same magic in the Deluminator for when people use his name and show loyalty to him. It's a whole thing. We'll leave that for a Chamber of Secrets episode. But,
yes, we'll leave it for Chamber of Secrets.
Because we are like an hour in and we are on like
Continue
the third bullet
yes.
point.
Okay.
Yes, okay.
Bringing it back to Goblet of Fire and this moment, I think I do agree that Dumbledore has a lot of sympathy for grieving parents, and that and just people who have lost family members. And I think that probably comes from his own experience with his parents and his sister. And I think that he, in that moment, yes, put the Diggories first. And I think part of that might be because he didn't understand the situation with Harry. So for him, it was like an easier choice of like, you know, he doesn't think that Harry is in danger at that moment. So yeah.
When Moody is taking Harry away from Dumbledore, one of the things that jumped out to me is the language. So there's this fantastic tell where Death Eaters and strictly Death Eaters refer to Voldemort as the Dark Lord. Mm-hmm. And immediately Moody is like, the Dark Lord's back? The Dark Lord's risen? Was the Dark Lord there? And I was like, wait. So I went control effing through my copy, through Goblet of Fire. So Fake Moody never refers to Voldemort before this scene.
Interesting.
And I was like, sneaky. I see what you did, Joe.
I was wondering, because I was like, you know, I was listening to the chapter again, and I was thinking of that Dark Lord, and I was like, what does Moody call Voldemort?
Exactly.
And I was like, he who must not be named, you know who? I couldn't remember, but that's so interesting.
I literally control F'd Voldemort, Dark Lord, you know who, and he who must not be named, and Moody never says any of them. He literally never talks about Voldemort.
That's fascinating.
Oh. Right? Which, like, you know, is brilliant. But, so, the other thing that struck me is he keeps being like, the Dark Lord, the Dark Lord, the Dark Lord, and Harry isn't, like, responding, and so finally he's like, Voldemort's back, Harry? And that gets the response. And that's just like him being like, oh my god, this kid! I need a yes or no answer.
I mean, at that point he must be so impatient with him, like, throughout the whole trials. He just tried to help him so much, and he didn't pick it up, and like, yeah, I understand his frustration.
Right? Yeah. He's so wants to get the validation of, you know, everything he went through in his monologue of like, am I the one?
Am I the favorite? The true chosen Death Eater? Yeah.
Wait, he uses Voldemort's name? I missed that.
He does.
That's crazy.
It jumped out at me right away, and I was fascinated.
Yeah, so
when he pulls Harry away, he's like, what happened, Harry? And Harry's like, oh, like, Cedric Graveyard, Voldemort was there, Lord Voldemort. And
my parents came out of the wand.
The Dark Lord was there? What happened? And then the Dark Lord got his body back. He's returned. You dueled the Dark Lord. He just keeps being like, Dark Lord, Dark Lord. And then finally, at the top of page 674, he gives Harry the potion, the Pepper Up potion. Mm-hmm. And then he's like, Voldemort's back, Harry? You're sure he's back? How did he do it?
Interesting.
And like that immediately jumped out at me.
That's so interesting. Why do you think that is? I'm having some thoughts, but
so literally what I just said. I think he's just so impatient trying to get through to Harry. Like he needs Harry to like give him yes or no answers. He's like, the Dark Lord's back. Like, is he back? Like, is he walking, talking, like, corporeal back? And Harry's like, oh, he killed Cedric. And he's like, is Voldemort back?
Yes.
That's just, like, him trying to get through to Harry.
Okay, I have a theory. Sorry, Liz, I think you wanted to say something, so I don't want to...
I wanted to ask Irvin if you went ahead to other books where Moody was himself, and did we see Moody calling Voldemort he who must not be named? Like, do we have that comparison?
I'm pretty sure I'm remembering that they said only, like... Mad-Eye Moody and Dumbledore and I don't know who else call them by his name, right? Or am I completely off there?
I definitely remember the quote you're talking about. I'm trying to remember if Moody is in that. Let's see.
I just want to know how thoroughly Barty Crouch Jr. like stuck to the character.
That was exactly what I was thinking, is that if Moody uses Voldemort's name, like the real Moody uses Voldemort's name, it might be that when Barty Crouch Jr. was playing Moody, he got used to using Voldemort's name when like talking to Dumbledore or whoever. And so it wasn't that weird for him to say, Voldemort's back, Harry, because he's like used to it. But now I am curious whether we know, which might be a...
No, Moody uses you-know-who.
Really?
In Deathly Hallows Chapter 4, The Seven Potters, he says, all done in the name of your protection to prevent you-know-who getting in at you.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
You know, I would have thought that Mad-Eye would be someone who would use Voldemort's name.
Yeah.
Agreed.
But yeah, he uses you-know-who a lot in Deathly Hallows, in that scene.
He's also very paranoid person. And like, you know, we see in Deathly Hallows later, I mean, this is after Moody dies, but like that there's a reason, like, you know, later there becomes a reason why you should not say Voldemort's name. And so I wonder if his paranoia is sort of like, well, I don't want to, like, you know, what if he does? Like, you know, I can imagine him thinking like, well, what if Voldemort decides to jinx his name? You know, like he probably was thinking 10 steps ahead. That's so interesting. Okay, so that is not a good theory for why he might use Voldemort's name in that moment. Yeah, it could be. Yeah. My other theory is that he knows that Harry uses his name, and so he is trying to like. And I don't know if we have evidence of that, but it might be that, you know, he just knows that because, like, Dumbledore or others have mentioned it in passing or whatever. Where he is like, Harry's so out of it. Clearly the Dark Lord is not working for him, but he uses the name Voldemort. So, like, this is gonna, like, get through to him. Like, he will respond to that.
I'm still not over the quote. Where's the quote?
Or he thinks that, like, because he is, like, Voldemort's favorite or whatever, that, like, he secretly thinks he should be allowed to use the name and nobody else.
Oh, no, because he uses the Dark Lord throughout. This is the one exception.
No, I know, but, like, it might be, like, a Freudian slip where he, like, in his mind, he calls Voldemort because he thinks of him as his, daddy or whatever.
Sophia,
you know?
In his mind, he calls Voldemort daddy.
Yes.
Let's be clear.
Yep. But, like, I could imagine him being like, well, we're on first name basis in my mind. Like, sure, I'm going to not say that because he wouldn't like it. But, like, in my mind, we're on first name basis. Yeah.
So, once we get upstairs, we then get the big reveal that it was fake Mad-Eye Moody all along, that it was Crouch Jr. as Mad-Eye Moody, who put Harry's name in the Goblet of Fire. And I know we've talked on this podcast several times about, like, the Potter books as mysteries and all of that. And so I just wanted to talk about this, like, as the big reveal in a mystery and what we think of it. Because I think it's fantastic. I think
Me too.
It's playing fair, right? We know all the parameters of what's going on. We know that Polyjuice Potion is a thing, which is established in Book 2. We know that Death Eaters faking their deaths is a thing that's established in Book 3. And the twist makes so much sense in retrospect, right? Like, after this chapter, you're like, oh yeah, Moody does always drink from his flask. Oh yeah, there were missing Polyjuice Potion ingredients from Snape.
Yeah.
And I think that's the mark of a really great twist in a mystery. It's not necessarily one that you can figure out in advance. But like a great twist is one that like when it's revealed, it makes you go, oh my God. Yes, of course. Everything makes so much sense now. And like this twist just like has that in spades where when it's revealed, you're like, oh my God. Yes. Like, of course. Brilliant.
No, this is an incredible twist. I think I completely agree with what you're saying. And, like, the movie does not do it justice at all.
No.
They are very lazy with it. Like, they make it way too obvious. Whereas this is like, I don't think anyone could have predicted it. And yet, once you hear it, you're like, oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. And we even get, like, the Barty Crouch on the Marauders map. We get all of the, like, you know, Barty Crouch acting weird and then disappearing. Like, we have a lot
all the double speak. Like, oh, I hate a Death Eater who walks free.
Like, there are actually, like, tons of clues, but it is, like, it's a very complicated, like, scheme and situation. So it's, like, you wouldn't be able to guess it, but, like, there are tons of clues once you hear the answer.
Yeah.
I think you would be able to guess it if you had more time to guess, because you're reading the book and you're not stopping for a year to like go through the book and figure everything out. But I think if like the book ended right before that chapter, you would have a chance to figure it out until the next one came out.
If it was serialized, right? If like, you know, it came out in like, you know, 5 chapter chunks every month.
Yeah, you might be
like,
able to.
I bet someone could put it together.
Right. Like, I'm not sure if I could, but I'm sure someone could. Because you have to take a few jumps. Like, you have to take the jump of, like, okay, everyone says Barty Crouch Jr. is dead, but, like, he actually isn't, and he escaped Azkaban. You have to take the jump of, like, and he is pretending to be Mad-Eye Moody, and that he is Mad-Eye Moody. Like, you know, it takes several jumps, but, so I don't think it's, like, naturally just gonna pop into someone's head, but I think somebody could figure it out, or come close, at least, with their theory.
Yeah. Well, because we see that, right? That, like, a lot of the twists in the later books, like, someone on the internet had correctly guessed.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, Harry being a Horcrux, Snape being in love with Lily, like, you know, Dumbledore dying but stoppering that with Snape's potion. Like, all of these were guessed in bits and pieces somewhere on the internet.
But what I would say is, I think this is this is a more complicated one than those. Like, those twists, like, I didn't see them coming, but then I did actually read theories, you know, in the lead up that I was like, oh, these are amazing theories, and I think they're correct. But this is a more complicated one than those, in that it has, like, lots of moving pieces, you know?
I mean, I think rather like that, we would have gotten there in bits and pieces. I think, like, someone would have figured out that, like, Polyjuice was at work. Someone would have figured out that Barty Crouch Jr. is still alive.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, in terms of mystery reading, it read a lot to me like Sherlock Holmes novel, where all the secrets are kind of revealed at the end and broken down by Sherlock at the end of a chapter. So that's what I kind of connected to in terms of mystery telling. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Actually, if you guys don't mind, I want to jump a little bit ahead, because while we're on the mystery beat, I want to talk about how Dumbledore solves this mystery. So one of the things that really, the central question for Dumbledore in Goblet of Fire for me when I was working on the Dumbledore book was Winky. Dumbledore tells Snape to go fetch Winky before the Barty Crouch Jr. reveal. And I read this like 15 times, and then on the 15th, I was like, why? Like, how? Like, what's going on? Does Dumbledore know what's up? And if so, how does he know it? So I've thought so long and so hard about this. So I would like to present my case. So the first option is that he just knew the Crouch family was involved in whatever mess was unfolding, and he wanted Winky on the scene. And that's as far as Dumbledore got. And, like, frankly, I think that's plausible, and that could be the case. Option B and this is kind of the one I subscribe to, is that as part of Dumbledore's investigations into what the hell is going on with the Crouches, he would have read Winky's mind. We have a precedent, or rather an antecedent, in Half-Blood Prince that Dumbledore reads house elves' minds to figure out what's going on. And so he would have known that Barty Crouch Jr. was alive and that he was up to no good at the Quidditch World Cup. He wouldn't have known anything about fake Mad-Eye Moody, about Voldemort, about any of that because Winky was fired before all of that unfolded. But he would have just known that Junior was, you know, a player on the chessboard. And so if that's the case, then Dumbledore questioning Junior about how he faked his own death and everything, I think that would be for Harry's benefit and, to break the fourth wall a little, for the reader's benefit, rather than for his own. So, basically, when Dumbledore realizes that Mad-Eye Moody is the culprit, right, when Moody removes Harry and Dumbledore's like, the real Moody wouldn't do that. Like, it's gotta be him. I think that's when his mind begins whirring, you know, at 100 miles an hour in the midst of, like, 8 crises. And he starts doing process of elimination of, like, you know, if it's Mad-Eye Moody, what's going on? It's probably not the Imperius Curse, because Mad-Eye Moody could throw that off within the course of a year.
Yeah.
His other suspects were Ludo Bagman and Karkaroff, but both of them were present at the same time as Mad-Eye Moody, like when Harry's name came out of the goblet. So he's like, it's not either of those. So he's like, okay, so our possibilities for, you know, who is pretending to be Moody is either Barty Crouch Jr., because we know he's alive and we know he might be up to no good. It might be an Imperious Bertha Jorkins, but that seems convoluted. Or there could be a third Death Eater who faked his death and is actually alive. And that the simplest and likeliest of these possibilities is Barty Crouch Jr. And so Dumbledore figures this out at, like, the last possible moment when he's, like, running to Moody's office. And so that's why he calls Winky's, because he figured it out, like, 5 minutes beforehand.
And I think that's the brilliance of Dumbledore, because I don't think he really figured it out 5 minutes beforehand. I think he has open questions and then goes through millions of what-if scenarios beforehand with everything. And then when some clue appears, he's like, oh, that is the what-if is true. That means this and this and this and this. Or it could present those 3 options. So I feel like he always already has, like, a million scenarios in his head, and then just picks the clues up on the go and makes his conclusions. So I don't think he goes through the whole thought process there, but he already has that set up.
I mean, I don't think he would have suspected Moody in any of his scenarios just because of how much faith he places in Moody. But yeah, we're splitting hairs there.
Yeah.
But by the time that he's running to Moody's office, he's
then of course,
Moody.
yeah.
Oh no, then he knows. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. Okay, I feel like Dumbledore has enough evidence that something weird is up with the Crouches by the fact that, like, Crouch shows up is like first of all, he's not coming, he's ill or whatever, and then he isn't showing up to work, isn't showing up to the games, and then is, like, wandering onto the Hogwarts grounds, and then he disappears, and, like, is he alive? Who knows? And that he would be kind of curious of, like, all right, I know someone's impersonating Moody, and I also suspect the Crouches are involved. Let me get Winky. Like, I feel like that's not crazy. I guess my question with your theory is, why, if he knew that Crouch was alive, why wouldn't he, first of all, like, tell the Ministry that, like, try to go find Barty Crouch and ask him about it? Like, before, like, he would be a lot more concerned about what's going on with the Crouches from much earlier if he knew that. And, like, other people would be more concerned if he told them. So why wouldn't he?
Because I think that's the whole what if thing. He has so many what if tabs open, and it's he doesn't know. It's just an option that could be something. And I think he has so many options open of what could happen with so many things, not only regarding Crouch, but also regarding the Horcruxes and regarding everything in surrounding Voldemort, that he can't just go around and tell everyone all of his theories that might not turn out to be true.
Right.
But if there's... But, like, this seems like okay, if he read Winky's mind and he now knows that Barty Crouch Jr. has been alive all of these years, like, set off the dark mark at the Quidditch World Cup, of course he's going to tell the Ministry of Magic, like, actually, I know who set off the dark mark. And, like, you know, Winky, because Veritaserum exists or whatever, like, you know, could use Veritaserum on her, could use legilimate, whatever it is, like, why wouldn't he inform the Ministry of Magic? Like, that's not even a theory at that point. That's just, he knows if he read her mind.
I think because, first of all, he doesn't do well with the Ministry of Magic, but also because Dumbledore uses information and holding back information for his own plans and goods. And he doesn't know what to do with that information yet, because he doesn't know, like, where is that going? And if he now goes around telling people, it will come back to whoever it shouldn't come back to. So I think he keeps that information to himself because there's nothing to really act upon right now.
Right.
I think there's a lot to act upon. I think that if he had read Winky's mind and he knows that Barty Crouch Jr. is escaped from Azkaban and has been being protected by Barty Crouch, the number one thing you do is you know, either tell the Ministry or don't, but you show up at Barty Crouch's house and be like, hey, I know this about you. Where is your son? What is going on with him?
But by that point, Barty Crouch Sr. is dead, and Jr. is, you know,
right.
Okay, so you're saying so he read Winky's mind after Barty Crouch Jr. was dead, or like here, Dumbledore doesn't know that Barty Crouch Jr. is dead, but Barty Crouch, not Jr., Barty Crouch Senior. Sorry.
Okay.
He doesn't know he's dead, but he showed up, you know, and he is dead.
After the Madness of Mr. Crouch episode, I think that's when Dumbledore would have been like, oh, something's going on with the Crouches, let me do my due diligence and see what Winky has to say.
Yeah, and adding on to that, I think that Winky was either an accomplice or brought in as a witness because he wanted to keep Winky around, thinking that maybe there could have been some communication between the two of them. So I think that he, in a way, used Winky as bait to see if he could lure Barty Crouch Jr. out, and eventually he did.
What do you mean, lure him out?
Oh, I don't really see where you're going with that.
So, if we're going off of the theory that Dumbledore read Winky's mind at some point and learned that Barty Crouch Jr. was alive, knowing that the house elf and Barty Crouch Jr. had a relationship and she was a caretaker for him, I think that there's a possibility that Barty Crouch Jr. might have tried to get in contact with her if she was at Hogwarts.
It's possible.
I
think that
it's possible. That seems like a stretch to me.
But she's working at Hogwarts far before he knows that.
And she might have information about Harry or Dumbledore or something that Barty Crouch Jr. could find useful if the Dumbledore knows that he is in some way working with Voldemort, but doesn't know what the plan is at the time.
But Dumbledore doesn't even know he's working with Voldemort. Literally, all he knows from reading Winky's mind is that Barty Crouch Jr. is alive, and Barty Crouch Jr. cast the Dark Mark at the Quidditch World Cup. Like, full stop. He doesn't know where Jr. is. He doesn't know if he was, like, the most loyal Death Eater, or if he was just a kid who got mixed up in that and knew how to cast the Dark Mark. I think he doesn't have nearly enough information about Jr. until the last 5 minutes when he starts putting it all together.
Okay, but back to this idea of, like, you know, Dumbledore doesn't work well with the Ministry or whatever. Like, we do see Dumbledore very actively after this Crouch Senior episode trying to get Fudge to take what happened seriously and trying to convince him, like, Harry overhears a little bit of their conversation, like, trying to convince him basically that Bertha Jorkin's disappearance and Crouch Sr.'s disappearance are suspicious and that they are potentially linked. And if at that point he knew that, and at that point this is like a few days, or I don't remember, it's like not the same day or anything. So he would have had plenty of time to go.
I think it's like a day or two after.
Okay. Either way, he would have had time to go talk to Winky if he knew, or read her mind or whatever. If he knew that, then why wouldn't he use that as part of him convincing Fudge to take this seriously? Because, like, why would he put in the effort to try to get Fudge to take this seriously without, like, playing his master card, which is like, this could be connected to the fact that apparently there's this Death Eater who has been escaped for all these years and set off the Dark Mark. Like, I don't see any benefit for Dumbledore to keeping that to himself.
I don't think we have textual evidence that Fudge cares about the opinions of magical creatures, though. So even if he...
It's not opinions, but it's information. Like, if
I don't think that's
put her under
credible...
Veritaserum, she would just give... Well, why wouldn't that be credible if she's like, I took care of this guy for, like, the last 15 years or whatever? Like,
I just think that there's more situations where house elves are dismissed by the magical community. So I am of the belief that, and anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm of the belief that Fudge doesn't really care about magical creatures or intelligent magical creatures. So even if Dumbledore uses that as an example, he's going to dismiss it just like he dismissed Harry's witness account because he's a kid.
But, like, why not try? Like, why is he trying at all if he's not going to play his actual cards? Like, you know, he is just sort of speculating, and Fudge is like, well, I think those speculations are silly. If he gives him actual facts, like, he's going to have a better chance. Like, what's the point of even trying to get Fudge on your side if you're not going to give him the real information?
I think because he doesn't have actionable information. You know,
How is it not actionable?
If he could tell Fudge that Barty Crouch Jr. is our culprit, he is over there, please arrest him, I think he would. But at this point, like, all he has is sort of another piece of this mysterious puzzle that he's trying to put together. I don't think he'd go to Fudge until he had more information than just Junior is alive.
I think that, you know, what he is choosing, despite maybe, you know, the fact that Fudge is difficult or whatever, he is choosing to have this conversation with Fudge where he is trying to convince him to take what's happening very seriously and to try to see these things as connected. And what he has brought to the table is just speculative. So you're saying, like, he wouldn't want to tell him because it's speculative, but what he has brought to the table already is speculative, which is,
right,
you know, Bertha Jorkins and Barty Crouch Sr., this might be connected. This might be, you know, connected to something bigger, a bigger plot, bigger plan. And, like, bringing more speculative information that could be used as evidence is, like, only going to help his case. So, like, I don't think it's, like, you can argue that because he doesn't want to do something speculative, he wouldn't tell him. And, like, it's not actionable. Like, what he's saying to Fudge is not, you should do X, Y, or Z. He is saying to him, you should take this seriously. Like, that, like, you should see these as potentially connected. You should take these seriously. And giving him this information that, like, that about Barty Crouch Jr. would be helping with his aim of having him take it seriously. But, like, either way, sure, it's maybe not as actionable, but, like, it is a little bit actionable. Like, it's at the very least, the ministry should go, like, check Barty Crouch Sr.'s house and see, like, if there's any evidence of Barty Crouch Jr. Like, you know, there are actions. You put out posters of his face and be like, has anyone seen this man? Like, there are things you can do. Like, but even if there wasn't, like, his purpose here is just to get Fudge to care.
Right, but I think the timeline goes the other way. I think that meeting with Fudge is right after the madness of Mr. Crouch. Fudge basically dismisses the whole thing. He's just like, I don't know, weird stuff's going on. Never mind. And I think after that, Dumbledore's like, fine, I guess I need to figure it out myself. Then he goes to Winky. He finds out about Barty Crouch Jr., who is totally in the wind by that point. And at that point, Dumbledore knows that Fudge is going to be, like, distinctly unhelpful unless he has something to, like, here is where your guy is. So I think at that point he gives up on getting Fudge to do anything about it until he has more to go off of. And at that point, Dumbledore also has, like, 25 other crises to deal with, so he's not going to go hunting Junior, like, around the world, while he's trying to keep Harry in one piece.
Yeah. I just think that's a lot of trying to make this work, whereas to me, it seems to make more sense that he just is, like, in this moment where he is finding out that he believes Mad-Eye Moody is under a Polyjuice Potion, that he's like, this is a possibility, is that it's Barty Crouch Jr. in there. Like, you know, and that he's like, I know something weird's going on with Crouch no matter what. So, like, let me try to bring Winky in and we'll see, like, maybe the combination of both of their stories will get me a sense of what's going on. I think that works just as well, or even better, in my opinion. But
No, and, like, I think that's a totally plausible read on it. I just think that if Dumbledore is as diligent as I think he is, I don't see why he wouldn't read Winky's mind, trying to solve the mystery of the Crouches, but it could definitely be either of the two possibilities.
I mean, I agree that that makes sense as something that he might try to do. But do we have... so when you said that we have evidence of him reading a house elf's mind, which house elf are you thinking of?
Creature.
Creature
he says
in...
in Order of the Phoenix that he performed legilimency on Creature.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I think that would totally make sense as something for him to do. I guess another possibility, though, is that either Winky, for some reason, knows occlumency, of which, like, is kind of a crazy idea, but at the same time, you know, she has been given a lot of very secretive information over the last 14 years, and I could imagine Crouch Sr. being like, we must make sure this secret never gets out. So maybe she knows occlumency. The other possibility is she is just, like, very drunk, and legilimency is not getting him much, because she is just, like, too out of it. Like, we don't know what it looks like to do legilimency on someone who's drunk, so I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Winky's alcoholism is what stymied Dumbledore.
Seriously. It could be, to be honest.
Okay, well, whatever Dumbledore knew or didn't know about Winky, let's get back to the villain du jour, Barty Crouch Jr. and his epic confession. So, Lizzie, what ideas have you got about this epic villain speech?
There were so many great ways that he fed us the information about how he was the mastermind behind all of these events throughout the Goblet of Fire book. One thing that really caught my attention that I wanted to discuss with the group is the quote where he says, "Who put your name in the Goblet of Fire under the name of a different school?" And then it got me thinking about back when the book was written around the year 2000, I don't remember it ever being mentioned about having other schools outside of Hogwarts, Durmstrang, and Beauxbaton. So I wanted to think about, did Rowling have the ideas of different schools out there at the time, like publicly, or was there any reference to it in other texts? And maybe we can speculate on what could that other school have been that is not the other two that we are already aware of.
I think that's so interesting. I never thought of that. For me, it was always like, oh, he just made up a school and put a like fake school in there to create a fourth space. But I never thought that it might have been an actual other school.
It's pretty obvious there are other schools. At no point in Goblet of Fire is Rowling like, these are the 3 schools of magic, like, in the world. There's also the reference to the Salem Witches Institute, at the beginning of the book.
Right.
Which, like, I know later on Rowling is like, no, that's not a school. That's like, a sorority or whatever.
Oh, I totally missed that.
But basically, like, clearly these are not the only 3 schools of magic in the world. So, like, I just assumed that Moody picked the name of any other magic school that Rowling probably hadn't thought through which one. Maybe it was the Russian one that was mentioned in some video game, called the Storits, or whatever that one was called. Or Rowling was like, oh, it's, you know, the African school, the Japanese school. So, yeah, I don't think there was that much thought put into it. But it's an interesting question. Sophia, what about you?
Yeah, I had never really thought about it before. And now she's given us, like, names of all the different schools. And I was just looking at what Moody says when the name first comes out, and he says...
where he's like, this is brilliant magic, if I do say so myself.
Yes, exactly. So he says that, you know, it's bamboozling the goblet into forgetting that only 3 schools compete in the tournament. I'm guessing they submitted Potter's name under a 4th school to make sure he was the only one in his category. So to me, that sounds like it was a real 4th school, and, like, what was confusing, like, the confusing the goblet part was, like, confusing it of, like, whether it's 3 or 4 schools, and not being like, yeah, this school that doesn't exist, we're also confusing you into thinking this also exists. So I think that it's a real one. But yeah, I wonder which one it would be. And what does it say about Barty Crouch Jr. of, like, which school he would choose? Like, what does it like the personality test of, like, which country does he most associate with?
Where does he go on holiday?
Yeah, exactly.
No, I was just thinking that then means that the Triwizard Cup kind of knows all, like, has a list of the schools. Which is interesting because I thought it would just have the 3 schools because it is a Triwizard Cup.
Yeah, I mean...
Oh, see, I thought that the Goblet would just, like, pick, like, the best candidate from every school that was submitted. Mm-hmm. And, you know, if you submit, you know, someone from another school and someone from a 5th school, it would just be like, that's the best candidate I have from that school, so, yeah.
But then it wouldn't need a Confundus charm. So I think the, like, Moody saying, like, it would take an exceptionally strong Confundus charm. So I think it is, like, there are 3 schools. That's my job, is to pick from the 3 schools.
Yeah,
fair enough.
I agree.
Because, like, some student could do the same, like, a student could have done it. Like, his point is sort of like, a student couldn't have done this. But, like, probably when they were, like, creating the Goblet of Fire, they're like, wow, like, you know, a really smart student would be like, oh, I'll just submit my name under another school, you know?
So we think it's a combination of the other school plus the Confundus charm was put on the Goblet of Fire?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's what, like, Fake Moody says when Harry's name comes out. He's like, you know, someone must have put a really good Confundus charm on the goblet.
Yeah, he tells him himself.
That's true. Just patting himself on the back there.
It was a skilled witcher wizard who did this.
Yeah, as Dumbledore would say, forgive me the lack of seemly modesty.
Yes.
Junior is many, many things. He is not modest.
No.
Yeah.
No, I mean, he is his father's son, so.
Oh, don't tell him that.
Yeah. I just want to say one thing about, like, this moment where Crouch Jr. is, like, having his whole monologue, and he's, like, telling Harry about all of the things he did to, like, make him successful in this tournament. And I remember reading this for the first time as a kid, and I was, like, far more upset by the fact, like, I was less upset by...
The death and destruction.
Yeah, well, no, I was upset by that. But, like, in this scene, like, what upset me was the fact that he was saying, basically, you couldn't have been successful in this tournament without me. And as a kid, like, most of the books I read, it was, like, the hero is good at what they do. Like, like, the hero is doing heroic things. And, like, they are successful on their own merits. Like, they are they are succeeding because that's what a hero does. And this was, like, actually very uncomfortable for me. The idea of, like, you actually only succeeded because the villain, like, ensured that you were going to succeed. Like, the villain basically cheated on your behalf for you to succeed, and that's why you succeeded. And I was like, what? I was like, no! It was so upsetting to me.
Do you think it's completely true?
Well, I mean,
yes.
As an adult, I'm like, Harry does a lot of incredible things in these tasks, and, like, that is his own merit that he is able to do those things. And like, he couldn't have succeeded without his own merit, but like, he also couldn't have succeeded without Mad-Eye Moody. And like, I think that this was uncomfortable for me, but like in a kind of productive way. Like, I think it was a good discomfort, and I'm like glad that this book sort of pushed back on the idea of like, the hero is like, that being successful is what makes you the hero or protagonist. That like being like really talented, being like the winner is like what makes you the hero of the story. And that instead it's like, yeah, like Harry couldn't do this on his own. Like he's just not talented enough. Like he's not good enough at doing this to be able to have done it all on his own.
Yeah.
And that it's like, I had never seen that represented in a book before, and it made me uncomfortable, but I think it was like a healthy message of like, you know, that's not what's most important. Like, it's his, like, it's not what he can do, but it's who he is. That's what makes him a hero.
And I agree with the lesson, and I think I had a similar feeling at that point. I'm just thinking, I think Crouch Jr. gives himself too much credit because, yes, in fairness, he created the fourth school, but all the other champions also had help. And I think, like, with the second task, yes, I don't know how Harry would have gotten through. But the first and the third task, I mean, did he have so much more help than all the other champions?
Not on the first task, definitely on the third.
Not on the first one, yeah. On the first one, not so much, but if Mad-Eye Moody had not, like, gotten Hagrid to show him the dragons, which allowed him to prepare for that task, then I think he would not have been able to do that task. And, like, sure, like, Fleur and Crumb were told because their headmasters wanted to cheat. But, like, nobody else was going to cheat on Harry's behalf. Like, you know, Dumbledore wasn't going to tell him. McGonagall was not going to tell him. Like, you know, so because...
Ludo Bagman was going to tell him.
Ludo Bagman would have, if he had accepted Ludo Bagman's help. But Ludo Bagman asked, like, you know, is only offering, like, right before the task is about to start. Like, it's not very helpful. So I think if he had, like, yes, everyone else was cheating too, but if he had not gotten Moody's help cheating, then I think he would have failed at that task because he would have had no idea what to do when he sees the dragon, you know?
Yeah.
That might be true. Just in comparison to the other champions, I think
like,
they all got help.
It's true. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which, I mean... I think Moody even says, you know, cheating's a traditional part of the Triwizard Tournament. But Sophia, back to your point, I love that, and I think it lends itself very well to the bigger picture, which is that I love that in Harry Potter, Harry is the chosen one, because of the prophecy and all that, but he's not the best wizard, the most powerful wizard, the one who is just instantly so much better at everything.
Yeah.
You know, even in Sorcerer's Stone, we get that where it's like, you know, Harry, you're a great wizard. Oh, I'm not as good as you.
Yeah.
Like, I think Rowling does such a fantastic job of making him like, yeah, the chosen one, but also not superlative at magic. You know, he's a good wizard, a thumping good one, as Hagrid would say. Mm-hmm. He's very good at defense. He's very good at flying, the way most people are very good at, like, one or two subjects.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a really refreshing thing in sort of the fantasy genre, is to see the protagonist who is not the best at everything.
Yeah. And, like, he has a lot of, like, very successful moments in this book. Like, you know, it is a book of, like, sports triumphs, like, you know, in a way of, like, triumphant, and yet it's sort of, like, all sort of taken away from him to a certain extent at the end, where it's like, oh, I was playing you the whole time, and, like, you were succeeding because of me, or, like, you know, it's sort of pulled away from him. And, like, even his, like, duel with Voldemort, it's like he didn't succeed because it, like, you know, he didn't succeed because of superior powers. Like, it's like, and Dumbledore this whole time was, like, had one pulled over on him. Like, there's a lot of, like, he didn't, like, a lot of the triumph is, like, sort of sucked out in this scene and in this chapter. And yet,
and I think that's needed.
Yeah, and I agree. Like, I actually like it.
Yeah, like,
I like it, and yet, like, that doesn't take away from everything that Harry does accomplish. And like, but what he brings to the table is like, it's more just like who he is as a person rather than grand successes.
Like, I think it would have veered too far into, like, oh, he's the most powerful chosen one.
Yeah.
If he was running circles around these 18-year-olds in a tournament at age 14.
Yeah.
So the fact that he held his own is very impressive, because he is very impressive, but also, like, well within the realms of normality.
Yeah.
I love that. Also, talk of how Barty Crouch Jr. was cheating on behalf of him. This is a great chance to reference what might be my most often referenced essay on this podcast, which is David Martin's The Role of Books in the Hogwarts Saga. So David Martin makes the point that when they have a problem, the good guys use books, the bad guys use people. And you know what? I'm just going to quote verbatim from the essay because David said it better than I can. The tendency of the bad guys to get information from people leads to a telling mistake by Barty Crouch Jr. He makes what anthropologists and military planners call the mirror image error. The error of assuming that the other person or enemy will act in a given set of circumstances as you would act in those circumstances. Mm. Crouch as Moody mistakenly assumes that when Harry needs to find out how to breathe underwater, that Harry is going to start asking people. Quote, all these hours in the library, didn't you realize that the book you needed was in your dormitory all along? I planted it there early on. I gave it to the Longbottom boy, don't you remember? Magical water plants of the Mediterranean. It would have told you all you needed to know about gillyweed. I expected you to ask everyone and anyone you could for help. Neville, Longbottom would have told you in an instant, but you did not. If Crouch Jr. had really understood Harry, he wouldn't have expected Harry to use Neville. He would have left the book in the library or given it to Hermione, because that's where Harry goes for information.
Right. That's really interesting. Like, what is that? So the bad guys are using people is like, is that symbolic of something?
I mean, I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
So, like, for instance, when the good guys need information, Hermione, if she wants to know how to destroy Horcruxes, she summons books.
Yeah.
When Hagrid has a dragon eggs to deal with, he goes to the library for books.
No, totally.
The trio keeps searching through books to find out who Nicholas Flamel is. Like, they always go for books. The bad guys, on the other hand, always go to people. When Draco wants to repair the Vanishing Cabinet, he goes to Mr. Borgin and asks how to do it. When Voldemort wants to know how wands work, he kidnaps Ollivander and asks him. So that's the dichotomy between the good guys and bad guys.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, very strong Slytherin traits.
Yeah.
From, like, just on his face, like, sort of books versus people, like, these just seem like two different ways of doing it. Like, they don't seem like one is better or worse than the other. But, like, I can see how Slytherins, like, they think about how to manipulate people. Like, you know, even in this speech, Barty Crouch Jr. is talking about how, like, you know, decent people are very easy to manipulate. Like, that's how he gets the like, information about the bath and the egg to Harry is through Cedric, that he's sort of like, okay, what people are at my disposal and how can I use them? That's really interesting. Yeah, I'm going to be thinking about that for a little while.
Yeah, like, the minute I heard that at a presentation at a convention, I was like, mind blown. I, like, wrote that down, underlined it twice. It's so good.
Yeah, I think it's a really good separation that Rowling makes between the Gryffindors and the Slytherins, because Harry has quite a sense of pride where he wants to figure things out for himself and be the one who solves it for himself.
Yeah, and I think that does make sense with, like, reading from books. You're like, I am learning this information myself.
Right, I'm doing the
work. Learn
work.
Information from other people, but using someone else is like, I am not doing the work. I'm using the fact that somebody else has done the work. You know,
yeah. It feels like a shortcut.
It feels like a shortcut. I mean, it's not necessarily a shortcut because, like, you can learn things just through connections with people, having conversations with people, but, like, this sort of Slytherin way of sort of some of these people are using the other person is, yeah, very interesting.
Yeah. Right, like, for the record, because I'm not a Gryffindor, I was like, I will cheerfully ask people and books for information. Like, I just believe in getting information, because I'm a Ravenclaw. But the sort of Slytherin-Gryffindor dichotomy that the books present to us is, I think, very clear.
Yeah.
But I think that the important word is use. Like, you can ask people. That doesn't make you a bad guy. It's the use book or use people.
Yeah.
Because, like, Harry also asks Hermione.
Yeah.
And asks
I mean,
Sirius
Hermione is
and so on.
basically a book. She's just a walking encyclopedia.
Okay, but Sirius really isn't. So he asks people, but he doesn't use people.
And the thing is, like, I don't think that Barty Crouch Jr. was necessarily thinking that Harry was going to use Neville so much as, like, I think he is thinking Harry is thrown into this tournament where he's way out of his depths and he is desperate. And what do desperate people do? They go to anyone and everyone they can and just, like, try to get information. And he's not thinking, like, Harry, like, for him, he's thinking a desperate person who just wants to get through the tournament and survive and whatever. That's what they do. They go everywhere and they do whatever they can. And what he doesn't realize is that Harry is not just thinking, how do I get through the tournament? He's like, I want to prove something. I want to show people that I can do this on my own. I want to show people that, like, you know, they discounted me, but, like, I can do it anyway. And, like, he has something to prove, and therefore it is embarrassing to him to admit to other people that he doesn't know what he's doing. And, like, I think that is a little bit of, like, a Gryffindor trait of his that, like, yeah, Barty Crouch Jr. wouldn't realize.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's also, like, the core of Harry. He needs to prove that by that point he's not yet, like, labeled as the chosen one, but people already kind of think of him as something special, so he always needs to prove himself. And at the same time, he is in a Triwizard tournament since the moment he stepped into that school, so, like, it's not really a new situation for him, or the thing that like, suddenly is a life or death situation. It's more like, oh, and this is also happening, and I don't like being there. But he has been through those kind of situations, the first 3 books already. Yeah. And so maybe his focus isn't completely on that.
Also, like, no offense to Neville, but I feel like Barty Crouch Jr. really didn't understand that, like, the social dynamics here, that, like, Neville is not going to be the person that Harry is going to ask for this kind of stuff. I think in his mind, he is like, Neville, this makes sense. Everyone knows that Neville's great at herbology. Like, you know, so, like, he is the person who would know these plant facts. But, like, not everyone really thinks about Neville as being good at things. Like, they kind of know he's good at herbology, but, like, this is not something that they are, like, they are not thinking about him at this point as being, like, he's the one who's really good at herbology. That's what he's known for. Like, what he's known for is not being good at things. Like, he's known for not being very successful in classes and sort of being bullied often. And so I think he's just, like, not really thinking about, like, these social, like, hierarchies of teenagers and, like, the social, like, situation that for Harry, that would be, like, the most embarrassing thing is to, like, ask Neville for help.
That's a really good point.
I will say, I think Junior wasn't so much thinking that, like, Harry would, like, go to Neville as the expert. I think he expected Harry to just sort of, like, you know, say aloud in his dorm room, being like, hey guys, I need to figure out how to breathe underwater for an hour. Anyone have any ideas?
Yeah.
And then Neville would pipe up.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. But, like,
yeah.
He is trusting that Harry would believe that, you know, they would have more information than he does.
Yeah. I think he also slightly underestimates how independent Harry is, yeah. And how, like, slightly separated Harry is.
Yeah.
You know, Harry keeps a very small social circle, especially before Order of the Phoenix, where, like, he really does just keep his tiny little unit of Harry, Ron, and Hermione together and doesn't, like, share his life with the rest of his classmates. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that would have been a miscalculation on Junior's part.
Yeah. Because, like, Harry has had to be very independent in his life and, like, not rely on anyone and not share, like, you know, not ask questions. That's, like, the number one rule of the Dursleys. Don't ask questions. So, like, yeah, I think it's just, like, it's very ingrained in him that you have to be, like, that is not something he's going to naturally do.
So, Lizzie, what do you have to ask us about Barty Crouch Jr.'s villain monologue?
I would love for people to do a comparison of Barty Crouch Jr.'s monologue and Voldemort's monologue, and it's kind of like who does it better. I can't really pick, to be honest with you. That's why I'm hoping that we can get some opinions.
It's great that there are two villain monologues in that book, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Usually we don't really have two villains who are just talking and talking and talking. So,
yeah. Like, we usually have two villains, but usually not both of them are great at monologuing.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, not two villains who are monologuing at you for a very long time.
All right, well, I will cast my vote first for Voldemort. Just like, Voldemort is an expert. He has much more practice at villain monologuing, and he has theatricality that Junior can only aspire to. Like, Junior gives a good monologue, Voldemort puts on an entire Broadway musical for his Death Eaters. Like, the rhetorical questions, the showmanship, the practical demonstrations. We gotta give it to Voldemort.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree. Like, I feel like Moody isn't really coming, or Crouch isn't really coming to the point, and like he just rambles a bit, and so the whole like ta-da moment of I deceived you there's no red line in there. Like, his script isn't fully thought out, and he just doesn't have the experience like Voldemort that he can just improvise on the spot.
That's true. Yeah, he's more like, give me credit for all I've done for you, Harry.
Just to piggyback on what Carolina said, rhetorically, Barty Crouch Jr. doesn't know how to use pauses and silence. Like, he keeps being like, who put your name in the goblet? I did. Who got you through the gillyweed? I did. Like, who told Cedric? Who told Hagrid about the dragons? I did. Whereas in Voldemort's monologue, he's like, I confess myself disappointed, and he lets the silence spiral. Perhaps you thought that, there was a greater magic than me. Perhaps you thought that Dumbledore was stronger than me. Like, Voldemort is the master of dramatic pauses, and Barty Crouch Jr. needs to learn how to use those.
My argument would be, it depends if you're looking at this from like a as Irvin always likes to say, like a Watsonian or Doyleist perspective, sort of in universe or out of universe. If we're looking in universe, I think Voldemort is a much better monologuist, and like he knows how to explain things in a way that anyone can understand. Like, he knows how to give the full context of the story. He's like, he starts from the beginning. He's like, he's talking about he's telling Harry about his father. He's like, giving the context about Lily's love, saving Harry. Like, he is giving everyone all of the context they need to be able to fully like understand the moment, revel in the moment, all of that. Whereas Barty Crouch Jr. is not giving Harry any of the context he needs, and is just, like, not explaining the very essential fact of, like, oh, I'm not actually Mad-Eye Moody. Like, he does not tell Harry that. He is just, like, going straight into the, like, this is what I did, and this is what I did. And Harry's like, what? Why on earth would he do that? Like, I'm so confused. Like, who even are you? But I think that from a, like, out of universe perspective, if you're looking at like the writing of it and looking at like what that accomplishes, I think that there is so much like tension and suspense that is built in Barty Crouch Jr.'s monologue because he doesn't give that information. So you as the reader are just like, wait, what? Like, what? Mad-Eye Moody is doing this? Like, Mad-Eye Moody the whole time? Like, this is the famous Auror, and this whole time he was working for Voldemort? Like, you're just like, what? This is insane. Like, you are, like, confused and, like, you just can't stop. Like it, you have to just keep reading. Like, you have to, like, turn the pages really fast to, like, get to the next part and figure out what's actually going on. So I think the, like, lack of information actually makes that a very compelling scene to read. And, like, very fast scene. Like, you have to just, like, keep on reading it. Whereas, like, Voldemort's monologue is a lot more, like, slow and contemplative. It's not like there's a lot of tension because of the situation, but like the monologue itself is like not quite as like making you like, oh my god, I need to like know what he's going to say next.
Okay, very good point.
Yeah, and I think I mean, yes, I agree with that, but I think in the story Voldemort talks to everyone. And Barty Crouch Jr. he talks to himself, basically. And
that's a good point.
And it's just like important to him to deliver his message and to be important, to impress his importance.
Yeah, no, I do want to just wrap up the question of the monologue with I still think that Voldemort did the better monologue. However, I give Barty Crouch Jr.'s finale in the monologue a 10 out of 10. Because he ends the monologue. The epic climax is, Harry Potter, you did not conquer him, and now I conquer you! Like, oh my god, what an epic drama queen. That was chef's kiss 10 out of 10. Like, you know, I immediately said Voldemort, and then I read that, and I was like, ooh. Suddenly it's closer than I thought.
Yeah, but that's one line out of the whole speech, I think Voldemort still wins.
Yeah. I agree. But listeners, we're gonna have a poll on our website. Tell us who you think delivers the better villain monologues, Voldemort or Barty Crouch Jr., because, yeah, we want to know what our listenership thinks. So, moving from one fabulous drama queen to another, I want to talk about Dumbledore and his entrance.
Oh, it's so great.
It's so great. So, I know Rowling has said in interviews, and I'm sure that, you know, readers figured it out for themselves, that the end of Goblet of Fire is really the turning point of the series, where sort of everything changes, nothing's quite the same. We have a corporeal Voldemort walking around. Mm-hmm. But I think one of the big turning points, and one of the ones I care about, being me, is Dumbledore and how we see him. I feel like sort of up until this part of the series, we've seen Dumbledore as like a benevolent headmaster, as more or less, you know, omnipotent and omniscient. You know, there have been cracks in that, but like the benevolent headmaster thing is really like, you know, first and foremost when you think of Dumbledore. And then this point in the series is where he goes from being that to still being the benevolent headmaster, but also being like a badass general fighting a war. And I just think it's incredible. And I'm just gonna read this paragraph out loud because I adore it. At that moment, Harry fully understood for the first time why people said Dumbledore was the only wizard Voldemort had ever feared. The look upon Dumbledore's face as he stared down at the unconscious form of Mad-Eye Moody was more terrible than Harry could ever have imagined. There was no benign smile upon Dumbledore's face, no twinkle in the eyes behind the spectacles. There was cold fury in every line of the ancient face. A sense of power radiated from Dumbledore as though he was giving off burning heat.
Oof.
Chills.
Damn!
It's the best part.
It's such a good line.
And now I can come in with my essay because that is where the essay came from. So imagine 10 or 11-year-old me just read the 4th book, and I read those lines, and I was amazed. And Dumbledore was my hero. next to Hermione. And I just realized that there's like, not really communities out there, but they're like journals talking about Harry Potter, but they were very much like movie-focused journals, and I read the articles in there, and I thought, there's so many mistakes, and they don't know what they're talking about. I'm gonna write an essay about Dumbledore and how about Dumbledore is the greatest. And so I'd written an essay. I don't think I ever handed it in anywhere. And I have to, the next time I go back to my parents, I'll have to look if I can find it, because I know I haven't thrown it away. But it's 10-year-old me talking about the turning point of Dumbledore there.
I want this essay so much.
Would be amazing Patreon content. We need this essay.
Yes.
I will look and see, I promise you, and then I'll have to translate it because 10-year-old me wrote in German and not in English. But that is the least of the issues.
We should do like a read aloud, like something where like we each bring our like childhood writing about Harry Potter to the
Oh my god, yes.
I don't even remember what
also,
I
was saying that could be an exclusive edition to the German edition of Dumbledore, where we're like, in the German Dumbledore, there's an extra thing in the bibliography of Carolina's 2001 essay.
We can do that.
Cute.
Yes, if you have a German edition, I'm happy to do that.
All right. I'll get in touch with
But
Riva.
please, add I was 10 years old.
I think this moment is why I'm so compelled by Dumbledore. Because there's this only one he ever feared side to him. But there's also the side that comforts Harry and loves sherbet lemons. And that duality, I think makes him so compelling, makes me utterly fascinated by him.
Yeah. And I actually think this is really important to establish in this specific scene. I was thinking about that earlier, with this chapter and with this whole Voldemort's whole plot, which is a crazy plot. It's a very elaborate scheme. And I think that what makes this elaborate scheme make sense to me as his plan, is that he is really scared of Dumbledore.
Mm-hmm.
Why is he working so hard to make this happen related to the Triwizard Tournament? And I think it's because he wants to kill Harry. Wants to use Harry to regenerate, then wants to kill Harry. But he is very scared of what happens next? What happens once Harry is dead and Dumbledore knows for sure that he's back and all of this stuff. And so he is very much okay, so I do want to kill Harry. I really, really want to kill Harry. However, it needs to be in the most, in a way that could come off as an accident.
Mm-hmm.
He really does not want to boast that he's killed Harry. He does, which is really interesting. It's a really, most villains, that's what they would want to boast about. But what's so interesting here is that he is nobody can know. Dumbledore definitely can't know. Or at least he might suspect because he knows Dumbledore's smart. He's not going to be totally clueless, but he can't know for sure. He can't know well enough to be able to get a lot of people on his side to or turn Harry into some sort of martyr or whatever it is. He's okay, we're going to take this very, very, very carefully and take a lot of risks here just for the possibility of this perfect moment of coming back to life, killing Harry, sending him home with the port key and being whoops, he died in the Triwizard Tournament. And that only makes sense if you think that he is terrified of Dumbledore.
Yes, I 100% agree with that. That's, what I was trying to figure out in my book and sort of the conclusion I did come to. Yeah.
That line also gives a lot of credibility to everything that we've been hearing in the previous 3 books about how amazing Dumbledore is and how much, he's done for the wizarding world fighting dark wizards. But Harry has never truly witnessed that up to this point. So it's just beautiful writing.
Yeah, that's true, because we've heard so much about how, he's the only one who ever feared, and everyone is saying that. But, I feel we needed to sort of viscerally understand that and not just sort of hear it parroted back to us.
Through the eyes of the main character. Right, exactly.
Oh, it's just great. Also great is some foreshadowing that we get in this scene. Lizzie, that was a sexy transition for you.
Oh, sorry. Shout out to the great foreshadowing by Irvin by trying to give me a transition. I picked up on how the great foreshadowing of the faux glass was delivered in this scene, where there was constant references of Harry seeing shadowy, blurry figures in the faux glass. And the foreshadowing that really caught my attention is that I've missed on my rereads, actually. I didn't actually notice it until I was reading for this podcast, was that Snape was... if Snape was on Barty Crouch Jr.'s side, would he have been reflected in the faux glass, or wouldn't he? Because he does show up in the faux glass as one of Barty Crouch Jr.'s enemies, if that's what the faux glass is supposed to show.
Yeah. I've always taken this as sort of some of the most concrete evidence that Snape is on Dumbledore's side. Sort of give or take the moment he clutches a chair in Chamber of Secrets, which is like my number one Snape is a good guy thing. I think this
Irvin, I actually don't know this one. What is...
Sorry, I forget what I've talked about in real life and what I've talked about on the show. Okay. For me, like, the single moment that made me think Snape was on the good guy's side is in Chamber of Secrets when the professors get the news that Ginny was taken into the chamber.
Yes.
And we hear everyone's reactions of, like, you know, like Flitwick uttered a scream or like someone else sat down and Snape clutches a chair really hard. Mm-hmm. And like the fact that Snape is like disturbed and upset by a student being taken into the chamber was like really firm evidence for me that, like, you know, he may be kind of an ass, but like he is, you know, deep down on the good guy's side because he does care that about students potentially being killed. Yeah. But other than that, I think that this part where he's in the faux glass for Barty Crouch Jr. is sort of the firmest evidence that he is, you know, opposing Voldemort. Which, like, is the true statement of his allegiance. Yeah. Like, saying he's, you know, on the good guy side or whatever, being like, he is against Voldemort, first and foremost, in terms of allegiance. Like, I think the fandom should have paid a lot more attention to this moment than they did during the Great Snape debate, because, I think it's absolute key.
I remember reading about that in the MuggleNet book, What Will Happen in Harry Potter 7. Like, that was one of the big points being given for Snape being good, and I found that very compelling.
Mm-hmm.
I do agree, though the one thing I have to say, in contrary to that, is so the faux glass works for Moody, for Crouch Jr., not for Voldemort. So Snape could appear as a foe because he doesn't know who Crouch really is, for once, or maybe because he knows, or no matter if he knows, he could be a foe of Crouch Jr. just because in the fight of Death Eater number 1 spot, Crouch Jr. isn't helping him there. So I think him appearing there is not like the conclusive evidence. It is evidence, but you could also kind of argue around that.
Although I will say that, like, well, I do get what you're saying, but when you said that, like, the faux glass is for Moody, like, I think it has clearly been, like, the enchantment has in some way been changed so that it is reflecting Barty Crouch Jr.'s foes, because otherwise Dumbledore and like, McGonagall wouldn't show up on there.
No, I agree. I was more saying, like, it's not for Voldemort, because we were talking about is Snape opposed to Voldemort. Is Snape opposed to Crouch Jr.
Well,
and does he know that he is Crouch Jr. and would that influence that?
That's true.
we're gonna get into this later on, but like I would argue that Crouch Jr.'s loyalty is so like entirely, wholeheartedly, 100% like aligned to Voldemort that to be opposed to one is to be opposed to the other.
No, but I think there's a subtle a subtle difference here where it's like, okay, in this moment, Snape does pose a threat to Barty Crouch, Mad-Eye Moody, whatever, regardless of, like, what Snape's allegiances are, because Snape doesn't know that Mad-Eye Moody is Barty Crouch Jr. in disguise. And, like, is it, like, just reflecting the fact that Snape poses a threat, or is it reflecting the fact that he's, like, against Barty Crouch Jr. specifically?
Oh, I love that. So is the threat the fact that Barty Crouch Jr. doesn't want to be interrupted when he's trying to murder Harry? And the threat is anyone who comes through this door is going to show up in the faux glass.
And, like,
regardless of who it is.
And they're all coming in with the intention of stupefying him. Like, they come in and they all immediately stun him. So, like, he is a threat. Either way.
Like, it might not go as deep as the allegiances to Voldemort.
Like, even if he was doing it on Dumbledore's behalf, like, you know, to show his allegiance to Dumbledore, even if secretly he's in allegiance to Voldemort, whatever it is, like, he is technically a threat. I still like the idea of, like, you know, it is reflecting it because it's showing his true allegiances or whatever, but it is possible that there is another explanation.
Yeah, Karoline, as you said, you could argue around it. I was like, you absolutely could argue around it. You know, we have a lot of fun arguing around stuff, and people certainly did, like, in service of their Snape is evil theories. I certainly did after Half-Blood Prince. But I think in hindsight, this is sort of some of the firmest evidence. You know, there's very little evidence that is like 100% you can't argue with it, but I would sort of put this in like the 98th percentile of evidence that Snape is opposed to Voldemort.
Yeah, it's like very effective foreshadowing in that way. Like, you know, it's a fun clue to look back on.
Yeah. I'm also going to say that the way Rowling writes this scene, like the tension of like people are on the way, really reminds me of the Lightning Struck Tower, which, I mean, what doesn't, right? But like the scene of like the barely alive hero and the monologuing villain have a chat as we keep getting reminders that people are on the way. Right here, Harry keeps being like, oh, there are like figures in the faux glass. Oh, they're getting bigger. Oh, they're getting clearer. And when it's Dumbledore and Draco having a big, you know, hero villain chat, we keep hearing about like thumps and yells and people are on the way and there's fighting on the staircases. And I think it's such an effective technique to like ratchet up the tension in these climaxes. Like when it's really just a conversation happening, like, again, bravo to the writing.
And it's interesting, there is a lot that is similar about these two climaxes of sort of, in both of them, there is some like, kind of Harry's main traumatic, adventure comes like before this moment where he's like, you know, in this case went out and like had this whole thing dueling Voldemort, and then in 6 it's like he and Dumbledore were fighting in fury, and then they come back and then Harry is put in this position of being utterly helpless. Like he is utterly helpless and just like he is waiting for someone to save him. And like, in this case, Dumbledore does save him, but, like, there's nothing he can do. Like, going back to him not really being the, like, you know, hero who is, like, saving the day here. Like, and then in 6, it's like he's waiting for someone to save him. He's waiting for someone to save him, and nobody does. Or, like, save Dumbledore, but save the situation, and nobody does. And he's just helpless and stuck and frozen.
That's a fantastic parallel. Oh, great stuff. So once Dumbledore is on the scene, and so is Snape, and we then get to see where the real Mad-Eye Moody is. Lizzie, you have any questions?
I do have some questions. If there's one thing that's really fantastic about this chapter is not only does it give us like plot building and with all the confessions and the monologuing, but it gives us like magic building and world building. Yes. And that's why I just am so fixated on all the items that have come up in this discussion. And the chest that is used to store the real Alastair Moody is fascinating to me, because I think that was the first time we ever saw magic that, you know, contained something that was so much larger than what it's designed for. So it made me think of a Tardis, because I love Doctor Who. But I was kind of going back and forth between what is this space really? Is it TARDIS magic where it's bigger on the inside, or is it a portal? The chest is a portal that's leading you somewhere else, that Moody is being stored somewhere outside of Hogwarts. So what are people's interpretations of that?
What's interesting is you said, like, this is the first time we see something that's, like, bigger on the inside or whatever. And actually, it's not the first time, because the first time is at the Quidditch World Cup when we go inside the tent and we see that space.
That's right, the tent.
Which actually
yes.
I love as a ring, as like a, it's set up at the beginning of this book that, like, just so you know, sometimes it's much bigger on the inside than it is, than it looks. And then that's sort of how we close off this story, is it's like, oh, this thing that, has been here this whole time is actually hiding something else. So I see it as more like, that, like, undetectable extension charm type idea of, like, similar to the tent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going back and forth between, is it like the cabinet that Draco used in book 6, or is it like you said, Sophia, the tents, where it's the expanding magic. So, but I think we've narrowed down that it is the expanding magic. But what do we think that the real Moody used that room for then? Because he obviously had it as part of the chest before Barty Crouch Jr. came and took over his life.
For storage, obviously. Lizzie, you've been to my apartment. Do you know what I could do with an expanding magical trunk?
I don't know if there's an expanding trunk that could fit all your stuff, Irvin.
That's fair.
But do we know that he had that before? Or
I guess we don't.
Could that also be something that Crouch brought? Or maybe there was a chest and Crouch used that and put that expandable charm on it to hide the real Moody?
Yeah, my interpretation is that the real Moody used it to, like, capture and store dark wizards. And maybe Barty Crouch Jr. knew that, because I don't know if
I like that.
Moody captured Crouch, and maybe he was put there himself at some point, which would be karmatic. But
I like that.
Well, yeah.
I like that very much.
I like that too, because I think we know it is Mad-Eye Moody's trunk, or at least, like, the actual Mad-Eye Moody's trunk. Like, I think that is at least sort of the way it is described, is as his trunk.
Yeah, I think so too.
It, like, the scene where he gets captured happens very fast. And, okay, does someone remember the wording? I'm going to try to find it, but, like, Barty Crouch Jr. is describing what happened. It's in this chapter, so I'm sure I can find it. And he is saying, like, he managed to subdue him and I think lock him in the trunk, like, right as Arthur Weasley was arriving.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
yeah, it's part of the confession.
Yeah, let me see.
He had to have figured that out really quickly, though, or the trunk had to be near the dustbins.
I made the dustbins move around, yada, yada, yada. Then I packed up, here. We managed to subdue him just in time, forced him into a compartment of his own magical trunk.
Okay.
So I think, like, that shows it was his trunk, and the compartment, I think, would have had to already have this spell on it. Mm-hmm. It also shows that they must have known it was there. I really like the idea that he imprisons dark wizards in there. Like, that's a great idea. And, like,
yeah, that's my belief.
I think
I like
it
that.
must have some, like, I'd imagine it's like it has some sort of anti-apparition spell on it, so, like, they can't apparate out. Like, it has certain magic of that trunk that is, like, keeps the dark wizards stuck there, and, like, allows Mad-Eye to, like, keep them there until, like, other people have arrived and take them to Azkaban or whatever.
Yeah, that's the sort of, like, poetic symmetry that, like, Joe's really good at, so I absolutely accept that.
Yeah.
I love it.
Ooh, I love that. Because I never thought about, like, how did they know about this trunk compartment? Like, but that would be really interesting if this is, like, just a known fact about, like, this was his style as an R.
Yeah, and Dumbledore would know because he's friends with Moody.
And, this really fits with Moody's character where, Sirius, I think, says, like, Moody was always, like, capture, not kill. And so if he is always capture, not kill, it makes sense that he would have come up with a way to effectively capture people.
Yes. And also, while we're on the topic of the trunk, that is the 7 ingredients of today's special.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Surprising absolutely no one, there are exactly 7 compartments of this magical trunk. I don't believe we know exactly what's in them all, but we definitely know that in the first trunk contains a massive spell books. The second trunk contains an assortment of broken sneakoscopes, parchment and quills, and an invisibility cloak. And then the 7th of the 7 contains the real Mad-Eye Moody.
Okay, this is my new theory, is that since we know he has an invisibility cloak, I'm imagining that, like, when he sleeps at night, he just, like, doesn't worry about Polyjuice Potion, but he's, like, extra precaution. He just, like, throws the invisibility cloak over him so it looks like nobody's in the bed. Just in case.
And we just really hope he doesn't toss and turn much while sleeping.
That's really practical. That way he can, preserve the potion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could you get an invisibility blanket instead of a cloak and just, like, curl up in it?
It seems, like, big enough that it is basically kind of like a blanket. Like, yeah. Like, the way it's described is, like, they just, like, throw it over everyone. And, like, I'm not sure it's just, like, in the books, it's not described as, like, having a hood or anything. It just seems like a big blanket.
That's how I've always imagined it.
Yeah, me too. I think for that purpose, for Moody, you would need, like, a sleeping bag. Invisibility sleeping bag.
Well, I think it's like an extra precaution, because, like, who is going to, like, interrupt Moody while he's asleep at night? But still, if I was him, I would want to, like, have a little, like, I would want to carry that invisibility cloak with me at all times, just in case, like, there's a moment where I'm starting to change, or I, like, need to rush to get more potion supply, and I, like, throw the cloak over me.
Yeah. Professor Moody, you're going blonde. What? Oh, these magical highlights. Gah. This is a good moment to talk about one of the theories that really changed how I understand Goblet of Fire. Huge shout out to Josie Kearns over at the Harry Potter Companion, who wrote the seminal essay, A Very Bad Year for Albus Dumbledore, and It's All Snape's Fault. But basically, she makes the case, and I built on this a lot in my Dumbledore book, that Snape and Dumbledore are in a huge fight all throughout Goblet of Fire, sort of after the Prisoner of Azkaban debacle at the end of the 3rd year. And that's why Snape goes out of his way to be unpleasant and difficult throughout the year, especially in the Madness of Mr. Crouch episode. But here, we witness their reconciliation, actually. And it's a blink and you miss it moment amid, like, 85 other things going on. But basically, when the Dark Mark burns, and when Harry comes back saying that, oh my god, he's back, Voldemort's back, Snape, in a somewhat uncharacteristic move, immediately brushes aside his grudge. Like, he spent all year being difficult and not working with Dumbledore, and suddenly he, like, falls in line. He backs Dumbledore up, he pursues Fake Moody, and he follows Dumbledore's instructions, which are ridiculous, by the way, with, like, nary a snide comment. And credit where it's due. I think this is a good moment for Snape.
Yeah.
Because Snape, for all his many faults, he knows when he needs to get serious and when he has to, like, put his vendettas aside, because, his number one priority always is to work against the man who killed Lily Evans. So if Harry shows up with a dead student and says Voldemort's back, Snape is gonna put aside his own nonsense and, like, fall in line. And so I really love this moment, like, once you know to look for it. And, props to Snape for having a good moment.
Yeah, these, I think, are my 2 favorite Snape chapters. Like, these are the chapters that show off Snape in the best light, I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think, they're fighting under different circumstances. They're fighting at a time where Snape doesn't know when Voldemort will come back, and he's unhappy with his situation there, and he feels stuck, and he doesn't know if he's going to be stuck for a long, long time there. And then suddenly Voldemort is back, and kind of the whole setting changes, and now he isn't stuck anymore, and now there's going to be action. So I think that's why it's easier for him to fall in line again.
And, like, Barty Crouch Jr. gives information here that, like, helps resolve part of the fight as well. Like, the, sorry, my AirPods cut out for part of what you said, Irvin. I don't think you talked about this already. But basically, because Barty Crouch Jr. is like, oh yeah, I lied and said that Dumbledore basically sent me to look at Snape's office. And, like, the fact that he admits in this scene that he lied about that, then Snape can be like, oh, like, one of the things I was holding a grudge against Dumbledore for wasn't actually true.
Yeah, exactly. Also, so talk of Snape following the instructions. So Dumbledore tells Snape to go to the kitchens and get Winky. And can you just picture for a moment Snape going to the kitchens, being swarmed by house elves offering him snacks, and getting Winky and taking her up to the office?
I feel like the house elves would be terrified of him and would not offer him snacks.
I think so too. Yeah.
I think the house elves would offer snacks to anyone who entered their kitchens.
Yeah, and I don't think he knows who Winky is, so it's just so funny imagining him saying in his voice, like, where is Winky?
Yeah. We probably won't get this scene in the TV show just because tonally it really does not fit with what's going on. But, like, I really want this scene to be filmed and to, like, play over the credits for that episode. I really want to see this.
It's very funny. It's very, very funny.
All right. With that, listeners, we are 2.5 hours in and nowhere near being done with this episode. So I think we're just going to have to make this episode into 2 episodes, and you'll have to tune in next time to hear us actually talk about Barty Crouch Jr.'s confession.
Who would have guessed? And after all that talking, I need some music. So, hey, Irvin, what's playing on the pub's jukebox today?
Well, I have written a Celine Dion parody from Barty Crouch Jr.'s perspective to serve you more. But no one's recorded it yet, and I'm certainly not going to sing Celine Dion outside of certain karaoke rooms. So instead, we are going to be listening to The Tournament by Slytherin Soundtrack. So give that a listen.
I didn't put my name in the Goblet of Fire. Eternal glory is not what I desire. I just want to be free of misery. I did not bewitch or intend to deceive. Trials of danger. Oh, wait, my friend, I'll see this through to the bitter end. Chosen but far from alone. The greatest champion ever known. The youngest winner ever. Triumphant in this grand endeavor. I'll prove my daring without delay. Won't lose myself along the way.
And we want to thank Lizzie for visiting the Three Broomsticks. Thank you so much. It was lovely to have you on. Where can our listeners follow you? Do you have anything you want to plug?
I'm not active on social media, so you'll find me on part 2 of this podcast.
Very true.
And I will give a shout out to my friend Sam Amon. Thank you for bringing me back into the Harry Potter fold.
Yay.
Yay.
Thank you so much.
Yes, Sam, thanks for bringing Lizzie to us. We appreciate it.
If you enjoyed your time at the pub today, please rate and review us online or tell your friends about our show. Huge thanks again to Luke Smitherman, who bought us this round of drinks at the Three Broomsticks. If you'd like to buy us the next round, head over to patreon.com/3broomsticks with the numeral 3 to sign up.
Want to find us online? We're on various different social media channels, which are linked on our website and in the show notes, where we share our upcoming Patreon schedule. Evan and I are currently reading fan fiction on Patreon, which is fantastic. And you can also buy Irvin there. Maybe the next thing I will buy from Irvin is a Celine Dion parody sung by him.
I mean, normally people offer to pay me not to sing Celine Dion, but okay. I mean, cheerfully.
It's fun for everyone who hasn't caught up yet. I paid Irvin to spell out his praise to Rubius Hagrid. So you can buy Irvin, basically, on Patreon.
Yes, I am for sale.
So if you want to do that or just follow along with our upcoming schedule, then visit us on our social media channels and on our website, 3broomstickspod.com with the 3 spelled out. Please submit a topic, let us know your thoughts, and of course vote in our poll. Who do you think does the better villain speech? Was it Voldemort or was it Barty Crouch Jr.?
Yes. And next time we meet at the Three Broomsticks, we are going to be continuing this discussion of Goblet of Fire, Chapter 35, Veritaserum. You know, who would have thought that such a chunky chapter about Dumbledore and Barty Crouch Jr. would have stretched for over 3 hours? No one saw this coming. Not a single solitary person. Nope. So, same time, same place next episode. And with that, I'm Irvin.
I'm Sophia.
I'm Karoline, and thank you for listening. See you next time in the Three Broomsticks.
Cheers!
Give me big old buckets of butterbeer. Give me big old barrels of butterbeer. Give me the drink I love so dear. And another round for my friend right here of the sweet old butterbeer.
This episode of The Three Broomsticks was edited by Patrick Musilek. The theme song was written and performed by the Faithful Sidekicks. Make sure to check them out at thefaithfulsidekicks.com.
We still have so much to talk about.
I gotta say, we might invoke Death Eater Protocol on this episode.
Yeah. I mean, you put a lot of effort in.
Yeah, honestly, at this rate. We'll see where we are in, 30 to 45 minutes. Yeah. But if at 5:15 we're not even close to halfway, we'll just call Death Eater Protocol.
I think that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. Because, I assume you also don't want to be recording until 3 a.m. your time.
You know what? I don't think I'll make much sense at 3 a.m. We can try, it's going to be funny, but... or I'll just sleep.
I have returned, just FYI.
Good.
I'm back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Karoline and I were just saying that we might need to invoke Death Eater Protocol the way this is going.
What's that?
That's what we call it when we need to split an episode into 2 parts.
Oh, okay.
Basically, let's see where we are in 30 to 45 minutes, and if we're barely at the halfway point, we'll just call it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.